Good morning. Welcome to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. It is Thursday, March 26th. Thanks so much for live streaming in with us at 10 o'clock at the top of the hour. President Trump will hold his 11th cabinet meeting of his second administration, as today is day 41 of the DHS shutdown and as the Senate continues to debate the Save America Act on the Senate floor. Coming up in just a few minutes, we'll go to the owner of All Family Pharmacy as well, one of our great sponsors here. So we look forward to speaking with Michael Kunzler. In the meantime, in case you missed it, let's check out a few highlights from President Trump's speech last night in Washington, D.C.
And with the help of our Republican warriors that are right before me in the House, we ended the illegal alien invasion of our country, passed the largest border security investment in history, and achieved the strongest and most secure border on record. I built 1,000 miles of wall, and without that wall, we could have never done what we did. And for 10 months in a row, this is outside, this is the facts. In fact, these numbers are given by people that they say are predominantly Democrat. They're the ones that make it up. For 10 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States of America. Think of that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We've also accomplished the largest reduction in illegal drugs in history, in the history of our country. Think of that. With the flow, deadly fentanyl across our border is down by 61%. Think of that, 61, not good enough, but I'll tell you what, it's down 98% coming in by water. Do you notice that? And we're trying to find out who the 2% are, because we think they may be the bravest people on earth. Now the Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security in an attempt to return to open borders where criminals come in from all over the world. From the Congo, they come. You know, the Congo opened its jails and released all of its prisoners into the United States of America through the totally open southern border, Sleepy Joe Biden border. The TSA agents have been hurt badly by the Democrats, who made 3 different deals with us over the last short period of time, breaking the original one and then breaking the current ones because they don't want to settle. They want chaos. As I said, so there are great military triumphs against Iran can't be displayed on television because they're displaying airports. But I have to tell you, they did one thing that's been helpful. We decided to use our great patriots of ICE. These people are great. They have endured so much punishment, all because they want to get murderers, drug dealers, people who are totally mentally insane, many of the worst criminals in the world, get them out of our country. And in so doing, I sent ICE to the airports yesterday, and they have been so great. They have been so great. And you know what's happened? And they didn't need any rehabilitation, but they did in terms of the fake news. And they're doing such an unbelievable job at the airports that they had one line. It was 4 hours yesterday, and today it was a half an hour. Big difference. And if we have to, we're going to send in the National Guard if we need to. Because we only, we have 6,000 ICE agents, and we have 40,000 of the other people that they're helping out, some of who really were forced because the Democrats don't want to pay them. The Democrats don't want to pay them. You have to remember that. The radical left Democrats need to get DHS back and open immediately. Americans saw the true and craven nature of Congressional Democrats during my State of the Union, and we're not going to let that happen again. They really are. They're a party, and it's terrible to talk. I want it to be the old way where they got, Democrats, Republicans used to get together, have lunch, and then they'd fight a little bit, and, but it doesn't seem to be happening that way. And this is before me. Because if you go back to Obama, he was a great divider. He divided this nation. He was a lousy president. The worst president in history was Biden. But Obama was a terrible president. He was a divider. He did so many bad things. But they're the party of fraudsters, criminals, radicals, illegal aliens, high taxes, and putting America last. That's what they are. They put America last. Republicans are the party for every hardworking patriot. And we do something very much different than them. We put America first. If our Republican majority stand up for these priorities, the American people will stand with us in record numbers. We have to be strong. We have to be tough. And we can't let these thugs on the other side of the aisle push us around. Because what they're doing right now is wrong. And the public knows it. Now the public knows it. And they're on our side. But you have to fight and you have to be tough. You have to be much tougher. And you have to stick together. Republicans have to stick together.
And that was President Trump, of course, yesterday at Union Station in Washington, D.C. Thanks so much for live streaming in for this broadcast. And those of you watching on replay, thank you so much for doing so as well as we get ready to go see the president for his 11th cabinet meeting in his second administration. In the meantime, let's go now to one of our great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the owner of All Family Pharmacy. Michael Kunzler joins us once again. Sir, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Let's go over some of the basics with All Family Pharmacy. For any of the new viewers, maybe watching this live or on replay, can you talk with us about why this pharmacy is simply the right choice for America?
Yeah, so we're based on medical freedom. We were founded on medical freedom in 2019, 2020, right when COVID hit. We gave access to, thousands of patients nationwide for essential medications like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, antibiotics, rescue inhalers, medications that they simply needed during the pandemic that no prescriber wanted to prescribe. Regulators did not want to give out. They were tarnishing people's license over it. And, here in the great state of Florida, we had the freedom and access to provide these benefits to those Americans. And, All Family Pharmacy started by listening to their patients, listening to what they wanted, listening to what they needed. And so we actually created a telemedicine company and a pharmacy all under one roof because they needed a doctor and they needed a pharmacy to get the medications from. So that's essentially how we started, was based on medical freedom.
And then on top of that, when we shift to things that are happening right now with the conflict in the Middle East, the question is disrupting some of that global shipping out there. How does that affect with you guys even here domestically?
So the global shipping, you don't feel it right away. It could take 3 to 6 months for us to really get hit hard because most of the wholesalers that we deal with here in the United States, they're FDA-approved facilities. They carry medications about a 6-month supply ahead of time, and they get regular shipments every few months. So it's going to take a little bit of time to feel it. We're starting to get a little bit here and there. I have quite a few medications out of stock. Not one wholesaler has it. It's starting to come a little bit, and we're hoping that this subsides as President Trump is trying to do what he can to keep peace without having to obviously start a global scale war with Iran, but we're starting to feel it a little bit. And so there are some medications that are currently on back order. We're working with wholesalers to try to get access to them within the next week or so. We're starting to feel it a little bit. I would suspect that if he clears everything up, we should be fine. But our suggestion is to always be stocked up, always be prepared. Don't wait till the last second because these things can get messy. And then the individual or the American patriot is the one who has to suffer over this.
And then on top of that, to the point that we've been talking about here on Right Side this week about, it's obviously a lot of people traveling or allergies and all of that going on. So the preparation time is really key, as you know. But let's talk about medical freedom once again from that medical freedom standpoint. So why is it important for individuals to take that more proactive role in securing their own medications rather than relying solely on the traditional systems that are out there?
Yeah, so the traditional system has you wait till you're sick to then call your doctor, schedule an appointment to try to get something to help you, some sort of medication, whether it's flu, cold, sinus. It could be an emergency like a roll, you hurt your ankle or knee playing a sport or working out, whatever the case may be. The traditional system is wait till you're hurt or sick to get the medication. At that point nowadays, doctors' offices are fully booked. You can't get an appointment for a week or two. And at that point, when you do get that appointment, how long until the pharmacy has your medication ready? You've got to fight with your chain or the corporate pharmacy that you go to, your local pharmacy, just to even get the prescription filled. Does your insurance deny it? Do they approve it? Tons of headaches. And so medical freedom here at All Family Pharmacy, we believe you should have access to those medications ahead of time. Keep them in your medicine cabinet. Keep them in a safe place so that when you need them, you have them. Don't wait till the last second to be scrambling, to calling doctors, to trying to get on the phone, to getting to the pharmacy, because at that point, it's too late. And then when you're at the pharmacy, how many of those individuals are in the same spot as you? How many of them are sick? How many of them are trying to get vaccinated, whether it's a flu vaccine that's not working, a COVID vaccine that clearly is not working because now they're talking about another variant. And if it did work, we wouldn't have all these variants every year. And so being prepared is medical freedom, having access to those drugs without waiting till the last second.
There are some critics out there that say stockpiling medications could actually create panic or shortages, but then others argue just preparedness is common sense. So I almost already know your answer, but I can kind of see where the critics are coming from, right? Or no?
No, and like I said, wholesalers keep 6 months worth of medication on hand at all times. We are licensed and registered with over 10 wholesalers. They have thousands and thousands of boxes of medication ready to go. So the individual American does not need tons and tons of medication. They just need 6 months, 3 months, possibly up to a year on times like now where there's a global conflict going on. It's okay to have a year's worth of medication for an individual, especially if it's a blood pressure medication, if it's a heart medication, if it's diabetes, if it's thyroid related, medications that you cannot live without, stuff that is keeping you going. We shouldn't be panicking because of a global conflict. We should be prepared. And that way you have a peace of mind at home, knowing you're safe and you have your medications. It's not going to hurt for an individual American to have 240 tablets of their thyroid medication that's going to last them 9 months, right? That's not going to hurt the supply chain. If an individual buys 10,000 tablets of thyroid medication, then we could talk about hurting the supply chain. But only a couple hundred tablets, which would be a year supply, is not going to hurt the supply chain.
And then on all of the bottles, the prescription bottles, that kind of thing, does it have the expiration date on a number of things? I mean, a lot of this goes on for a while. It doesn't expire for some time, correct?
Oh, yeah. So, federal and state law require the prescription to be valid for 1 year. That gives us the ability to put on the prescription 1 year of an expiration date. But most of the maintenance drugs that we send out, we send it in the manufacturer's bottle. That manufacturer's bottle will have an expiration date based on the manufacturer. Traditionally speaking, they're 1 year, 2 years, sometimes even longer. We give you that access because we want you to know the medication is going to last. Not many pharmacies want to give you the manufacturer's bottle, right? We do that. We don't like it. We like to keep it sealed. We like to sell it to you in the count that it comes in. If it's a 60 count, 100 count, 90 count, whatever the case may be, so that you have full access, you know who the manufacturer is, and you know what the actual expiration date of the prescription is. Even though state law requires us to put on the prescription label itself 1 year, we're letting you know what the manufacturer's date is.
And then also within the preparedness umbrella, the emergency kits that you guys have available, is that part of more of the stockpiling side of things? I mean, is that what you would advise, is for people to buy the kits, or simply buy just a number of orders of some of the generic medications out there, or ivermectin, that kind of thing?
I think every individual should purchase what they believe is right for their lifestyle, how they live. Emergency kits are great. They're good for emergencies, right? But you may not need every single individual medication that's in there. Some people like it because it gives them a peace of mind. We give you directions on how to use it, what to use each medication for. God forbid there's an emergency. So sometimes it's nice to have an emergency kit. Some individuals like myself, they know, hey, I'm just going to keep a bottle of Augmentin, which is an antibiotic, because that's one that works well for my sinus infections and my allergies. Some people like to keep the Z-Pack because they have traditional flu or sickness that are bacteria related. And then if there's younger kids in the house, Z-Packs have always worked well with them because it's not as strong as Augmentin or some of the amoxicillins that we give out. So it's based on an individual. Most people already know what medications work for them, right? We're not scientists. We're not all doctors, but we've lived our lives using these medications since we were, young kids. And so most people already know what they want and what they need, and they can just place their order. And then for those who don't, they can always call us. We can walk them through it over the phone. We can give them ideas. We can give them stuff that would only help them and not hurt them. But again, everything has to go through a licensed provider, one of our physicians that we provide. And so we need approval through them first, which we will help you get that.
You know what I like about you guys as well is the fact that you are able to be reached. You're able to be communicated with. It's not like you're just out there and they'll just ship you something. No, you can have the medical form figured out online. You can get the U.S. licensed physician to approve that if that's what they do, and then they ship the shipment directly to you. And then if you have any questions, they can call you guys. And I think that's one of the things that people really like out there. So could you talk to us about the RSBN? Is it still 25% off right now?
Yes, so we're doing the RSBN 25. This is for obviously CPAC going on, as well as the conflict in Iran. If this is a time that people need to stock up, we have the ability to stock up with them. We're going to give them 25% off their entire order. So we're going to help them. We're going to try and get them to save as much money as possible so that they can purchase the medications they need for the remainder of summer, spring, the year, whatever the case may be. The 25% coupon is valid until the end of the month. So we're giving them an opportunity right now to stock up on these meds.
That's awesome. All Family Pharmacy owner Michael Kunzler, thank you again for joining us here on Right Side.
Thanks for having me.
Definitely. Good stuff right there. RSBN 25 is the promo code, so 25% off. We'll be talking about All Family Pharmacy, of course, throughout the broadcast as we get ready to see the 47th Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, at his 11th cabinet meeting in his second administration. So we'll be going there live. I assume we'll be hearing, of course, from the President, a number of department leads and secretaries, of course, in the cabinet, and then maybe a Q&A with reporters. Last time, if I recall, I think the 10th meeting, there was no Q&A with the reporters at that point, but there was, I guess, later that day or later in that week with the president. So we'll see what happens here, all live on Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. Let's go to a few of our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including Rumble Wallet. And you might have been seeing out there various platforms trying to control the narrative, but we can fight back in that information arena and in the financial arena because Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. On one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. Banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards, so that's why Rumble has launched Rumble Wallet, a wallet that no one can cancel and a wallet that supporters can use to instantly tip creators like us without any middleman taking the cuts. So with Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Not even Rumble can touch it, and it's yours and only yours. It's yours to protect your future and family, and you can buy and save digital assets like Bitcoin and Tether Gold in one place. Tether Gold is that real gold on the blockchain with ownership of physical gold bars. It's not only a wallet to buy and save, but it also allows you to support your favorite creators by easily tipping them with a click of a button. So download Rumble Wallet today, open an account, and you can step away from the big banks for good. Wallet.rumble.com or search Rumble Wallet in the app stores. Also, let's go to kalshi.com/RSBN. A ton of trending political market questions on kalshi.com. You can use the QR code, you can download the app, you can go to the website if you'd like. All information there for you if you'd like to bet, trade, or check out some of the polls there. More than 1 million users on kalshi.com. One of the hottest questions on the political spectrum from Kalshi is, when will the DHS funding kick back in, or when will that happen? And people are putting money on the line for that, checking out the polls, that kind of thing. You can do the same, kalshi.com/RSBN. Great sponsor here, Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, so we're looking at 40 minutes from now. The president will hold his 11th cabinet meeting of his second administration, as today is day 41 of the DHS shutdown. And this is as the Senate continues to debate the Save America Act. Meantime, let's shift gears. Let's go to the White House about the Medal of Honor, a new video brought to you by 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in clip 2.
The President of the United States of America has posthumously awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Master Sergeant Roderick W. Edmonds, United States Army.
1941, Roddy Edmonds of Knoxville, Tennessee, enlisted in the U.S. Army and soon rose to one of the youngest master sergeants in the military.
On the evening of January 26, 1945, the Germans announced that only Jewish American prisoners would fall out for roll call the following morning at the threat of execution.
There were more than 200 Jewish American soldiers in the camp, and Roddy knew their separation from the group would mean certain death. So that night he summoned his team and devised a plan. The next morning, all 1,200 American men fell in line together, shoulder to shoulder.
The Commandant removed his pistol, pressed it hard against Master Sergeant Edmonds' forehead between his eyes, and demanded that he order all Jewish American prisoners to step forward or he would be shot. Master Sergeant Edmonds fearlessly held his ground, refusing to concede.
The Nazi officer lowered his weapon and the soldiers erupted in cheers. With total disregard for his own life, Roddy had saved over 200 of his fellow service members.
Master Sergeant Edmonds gallantly led these prisoners in a relentless pursuit of opposition and resistance, forcing the Germans to abandon the camp, leaving the 1,200 American prisoners behind.
Congratulations to the family of Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds.
The President of the United States of America has posthumously awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Michael H. Allis, United States Army.
After 9/11, Michael enlisted in the Army, and by 24 years old, he was in. He was locked in. He loved it. He wanted it so badly. He was a squad leader serving in Afghanistan with the 2nd Battalion, 22nd Infantry Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team of the legendary 10th Mountain Division.
A complex enemy attack involving multiple vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, suicide vests, indirect fire, and small arms fire was launched against Forward Operating Base Hanzi.
From across the compound, Michael saw the pillar of white smoke rising and ran to join the fight, rushing without his gear. Along the way, he encountered a Polish soldier, and together they advanced under heavy fire, very, very heavy fire.
While fighting along the perimeter, an insurgent came around the corner. Staff Sergeant Allis fired on the insurgent and incapacitated him, but as he approached the downed insurgent, the insurgent's suicide vest detonated and mortally wounded him.
He charged the wounded Polish soldier. Without hesitation, Michael raised his gun and forced himself between the insurgent and the man he just met, shielding him with his own body.
Staff Sergeant Allis's exceptional courage and complete disregard for personal safety were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon him, his unit in the United States Army. The President of the United States of America has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Terry P. Richardson, United States Army.
102 brave men of Terry's Alpha Company were asked with securing Hill 222 deep behind the enemy's line in Vietnam. They didn't know it at the time, had no idea, but the area was totally infested with nearly 300 enemy bunkers pinned down in hell on earth, Terry summoned unimaginable courage. 3 times he exposed himself to enemy fire to rescue severely wounded comrades, and 3 times he dragged them back to the group.
Staff Sergeant Richardson recognized that the only way to keep his company from being overrun was with accurate tactical airstrikes.
Acting without regard of his own life, he grabbed a radio and charged up Hill 222 alone.
He began to direct the tactical airstrikes and shortly thereafter became wounded by an enemy sniper. Staff Sergeant Richardson continued directing the tactical airstrikes for 7 more hours before the enemy broke contact.
Due to Terry's actions above and beyond the call of duty, 82 men, Alpha Company, survived this battle, including 2 in this room, Norm Meyer and Dave Himmer. Terry, today you enter the ranks of the bravest warriors ever to stride the face of the earth.
An event that you saw right here on Right Side Broadcasting Network earlier this month. Let's go to a few of our sponsors as we continue our live broadcast, getting ready to go to the Cabinet Room there at the White House. First up, Birch Gold Group, as you see there on your screen. You can think about the fact of 2006, that $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. And at today's prices, those 33 ounces would be worth about $165,000. We're told that smart Americans are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals all across this country. And that's why you might want to consider buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, gold has been a store of wealth, of course, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced financial strategy. And even better, Birch Gold could actually help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. So just text Trump to the number 989898. You see that there on your screen to receive your free info kit on gold. There is no obligation, just useful information. They have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. So you can let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold. Text Trump to 989898. Again, that's Trump to 989898. All Family Pharmacy, as you might have seen at the top of our broadcast, we interviewed the owner of All Family Pharmacy, Michael Kunzler. So if you can check that out on replay a little bit later, definitely good to get some context on this great pharmacy. And as we talk about things like medical freedom, and if you're someone who believes in medical freedom and supporting the MAHA movement, and you may be frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They're an independent American pharmacy. They're not a chain, and they give you direct access to medications you need, including ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without the runaround. And right now, as you see on your screen, until the end of the month, exclusively for RSBN viewers, you can get that 25% off your order with RSBN 25. And here's how this whole thing works. All you do is go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You fill out that medical form, then a licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate, and your medication ships directly to your door. And of course, with spring here, allergies, travel, uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared, and you can order ahead and be ready. This is exactly the kind of American business we should be supporting, as you see there, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Use that RSBN 25 for 25% off, as it's the bottom of the hour in just about 120 seconds from now, 2 minutes. So what we know is this. Here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we have great sponsors. We also have great donations from viewers. And it's awesome because we don't have these massive woke corporations, telling us what we have to say. It's kind of nice to have that freedom of speech, that freedom of the press here at Right Side. So when you see all of the sponsors that we're talking about here, go ahead and give them a look and purchase their products or check them out as we continue to partner with some great sponsors. But also, if you'd like to donate, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate for more information as we grow and expand here at the network. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Let's shift gears now. Let's get back into the news as Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt's recent comments are getting some traction on X and in the social media aspect of things, talking about funding DHS. Let's go to clip 3.
There are moments when a policy debate stops being a policy debate, when all the abstractions fall away, when all the buzzwords and talking points and legal jargon fall away. And what we're left with is a very simple question about the first duty of government. Sanctuary policies force this question, because this is not really about federalism, it's not really about local control, and it certainly isn't about compassion. It's about who comes first, the American citizen or the illegal alien. And sanctuary jurisdictions have answered that question. They've answered it with their laws, they've answered it with their policies, they've answered it with their conduct. They put the illegal alien first. That is what a sanctuary policy means in the real world. An illegal alien commits a crime and gets arrested by local law enforcement. That arrest tells government exactly where the person is. Federal immigration authorities then make a very simple request. Let us know when this person is being released so that we can take him into custody and begin the removal proceedings. That is not some extraordinary burden. That is not a constitutional crisis. That is not conscription. That is basic cooperation. It's the kind of coordination that happens every single day between state, local, and federal law enforcement in every other context. And yet, when the subject is immigration, sanctuary jurisdictions refuse. They withhold the information, they block the transfer, they release the alien, and then they send the alien back into the community. That is a choice, a very deliberate choice, and it's a choice that gets people hurt. Sometimes it gets people.
And that was Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt talking about DHS funding. Also, just into the newsroom here, we know that President Trump has said in the past, quote, "We have put the world on notice that America will not allow men to compete against women in the 2028 Olympics." Well, Rapid Response 47 on X saying new from the International Olympic Committee, quote, "The policy explains that for all disciplines on the sports program of an IOC event, including the Olympic Games, and for both individual and team sports, eligibility for any female category is limited to biological females." Basically, no transgender being able to cross over and play in men's sports. So that's happening right now. That was about 4 minutes ago that we're seeing that story. Let's go to RSBN Donate as well. If you'd like to donate to the network, all you have to do is go to rsbnetwork.com/donate. All of the money that we're getting here, of course, goes to paying staff and also lights, camera, action, right? It's all the things and all of the travel and all the things that we do here at the network. So if you'd like to donate to the network, please do. rsbnetwork.com/donate. Let's go to mypillow.com/RSBN as well. Mattress and topper sale. Always good to see sales at mypillow.com. The mega sale 2.0, that's ongoing right now. Free shipping, all the great products that you guys know about out there, including the slides, the slippers, the pillows, the mattress toppers, the Giza Dream Sheets, the My Coffee, the list goes on, as you guys know. So mypillow.com/RSBN, great sponsor here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Let's go now to CENTCOM. This is Central Command with the 5th update on Operation Epic Fury.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command, here with my 5th update on Operation Epic Fury. We're in the 4th week of the campaign and remain on plan or ahead of plan in achieving very clear military objectives for eliminating Iran's ability to project power in meaningful ways outside its borders. U.S. forces have struck more than 10,000 military targets. In fact, we hit the 10,000th Iranian target just hours ago. And if you combine what we've accomplished with the success of our Israeli ally, together we have struck thousands more, clearly demonstrating that we're stronger together. Our precision strikes have overwhelmed Iranian air defenses, and our combat flights over Iran are having tangible effects. Here are a few examples. For decades, Iranian warships have roamed regional waters, threatening and harassing global shipping. But those days are over because we've now destroyed 92% of the Iranian Navy's largest vessels. They are not sailing, and my operational assessment is that they've now lost the ability to meaningfully project naval power and influence around the region and around the world. As we've highlighted previously, Iran's drone and missile launch rates are down by more than 90%, meaning their ability to attack American forces and regional neighbors is drastically reduced. And not only have we significantly degraded Iran's naval, drone, and missile capabilities, we've also removed the regime's ability to rebuild them. Before Operation Epic Fury, Iran had large-scale manufacturing capacities to not only build naval vessels, missiles, and attack drones, but also to advance and proliferate these technologies to regional and global bad actors. Today, we've damaged or destroyed over 2/3 of Iran's missile, drone, and naval production facilities and shipyards, and we're not done yet. We are on a path to completely eliminate Iran's wider military manufacturing apparatus, which is why my operational assessment continues to be Iran's combat capability is declining as U.S. combat capability continues to increase. U.S. forces maintain air superiority over Iran's skies, having now flown over 10,000 combat flights. As I mentioned in my last update, refueling tankers are extending our reach, and fighters and bombers are delivering precise strikes against our primary objectives. Let me highlight our B-52 bomber force, which is executing a high volume of strikes into Iran and demonstrating our unmatched dominance in the air. Now in their 8th decade of flight, our B-52 bombers are executing strikes into Iran with up to 70,000 pounds of munitions on each mission. Our B-52 pilots and aircrew embody the courage and resilience of the more than 50,000 American sons and daughters serving in uniform during this operation. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult, and no task too great for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardians, and Coast Guardsmen. I just could not be prouder of our troops, and I know the American people share that same pride. Thanks so much. Godspeed.
All right, so the 5th update for the U.S. Central Command there from the Admiral. As we're looking live, I believe somewhere near Washington, D.C., maybe. What we'll do now is let's go to our Throwback Thursday segment to a couple years ago on the campaign trail, when President Trump had this to say about what is now known as the Save America Act.
It used to be election day. Now I call it election period. We have 62 days in some cases, 62 days, where they have it 2 months before. You can vote 2 months before. And in case you need more time after the election is over, you get 2 weeks extra. You don't even know it's so horrible what they're doing. We should have all paper ballots, voter ID, and same-day voting.
So, quick Throwback Thursday there for you from President Trump on the campaign trail, speaking about exactly what we're seeing right now when it comes to the Save America Act. So, something that he spoke about a couple years ago, still speaking about it now. He's spoken about that for several years, and so have all of us, when it comes to election security, election integrity, and many great rock stars out there that are unsung heroes in grassroots movements that might not get a whole lot of play on all sorts of platforms, doing some real good work out there, as well as I've been on some of those calls as well, just to listen in. Have you really heard of what a committee man or committee woman is supposed to do at a precinct and all the voter rolls? These are terms that back in the 90s and early 2000s, would you have known what clearing the voter rolls means? You know what I mean? So a lot of great workers out there just working on behalf of the American people who don't get enough credit, in my opinion, sometimes. That's why I'm talking about it. Looking live there, of course, at the Thomas Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C., as it's 9:38 right there on the East Coast. And, of course, bright and early, 6:39 on the West Coast. So if somebody's up out there on the West Coast watching right now, kudos. Thanks so much for live streaming in. We're going to see the president here in the next 20 minutes or so, depending on if it's going to be delayed at all. Sometimes the cabinet meeting, it takes a while to get a number of the secretaries from all the cabinet positions into that one room, but we'll see what happens. And then we'll see if the president will be taking questions from the press. We'll just see how everything pans out here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. All brought to you by Cove Pure, covepure.com/RSBN. So you can drink pure, live pure right there with this great, great product. And here's the thing, most people tend to go overboard buying new supplements and trying a new diet or workout, which is totally cool, right? But they completely ignore the most important basic thing, water. Even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all of the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. So that's where Cove Pure comes in. They have that clear wave technology that's certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants, pretty much anything that's not water. So things like these PFAs or microplastics or pharmaceutical residue, fluoride. I don't want to drink any of that. I don't know about you, but that's in a lot of that tap water out there. And another thing I really like about this, you're not going to get the gross aftertaste of, when you drink tap water, you get that aftertaste. With this, obviously, they're taking that 99.9% of those contaminants right out of there, so you can have fresh, clean drinking water the way it's meant to be. And instead of the whole big overhaul, you can make one small upgrade that adds up every single day. So right now, you can get $250 off for a limited time if you use that link on the bottom of your screen, covepure.com/RSBN. covepure.com/RSBN. Let's go to All Family Pharmacy as well. We want to take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors, All Family Pharmacy, because if you're someone who believes in some simple things here, medical freedom, if you support the MAHA movement, and if you're frustrated with the healthcare system that puts the insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy, not a chain, and they give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without the runaround. So right now, exclusively for all of our viewers here on RSBN, you can get 25% off your order with that RSBN 25 code that you see there on your screen. And here's how it works. You go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You'll fill out a medical form. A licensed U.S. physician will review your request, prescribes if appropriate, and your medication ships directly to your door. And with spring here and allergies and travel and uncertainty in certain parts of the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. So you can order ahead and be ready. So all you have to do is visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN and use that 25% off promo code RSBN25, as it's still a solid sale going on right now, I believe, until the end of the month. So only a few days left on that, as we're looking live somewhere in Washington, D.C. right there. And we'll be going to the White House here shortly, as we are getting ready to hear from the president and the cabinet members, as this is, again, the 11th cabinet meeting in President Trump's second administration. The camera moving right back there to the Thomas Jefferson Memorial. All right, let's go to clip 6, where yesterday, if you watched, we saw Texas Representative Brandon Gill talking about the Save America Act, talking about DHS. Here's a new video as well that he just posted.
Democrats defunded the Department of Homeland Security for the stated purpose of stopping the president from deporting criminal illegal aliens. And on the other hand, Democrats are fighting against the Save America Act so that they can allow those very same illegal aliens to vote in American elections. This whole charade is all about Democrats systematically weaponizing mass migration to benefit themselves politically in the midterms. It's absolutely disgusting, and that's what we're fighting against right now.
So I was just watching a clip. As I watched that clip previously, there's a story out there from Breaking 911, and it's showing a Fox News clip showing ABC's real winner, Jimmy Kimmel, saying that he's mocking, Jimmy Kimmel mocked Secretary Markwayne Mullin for being a former MMA fighter and plumber. Really, Jimmy? You're going to go there? Oh, man. Wait till people talk about that online. Obviously, I didn't watch Jimmy Kimmel last night. Who does? You have to be funny to be, I'm sorry, you have to be funny if you're going to do a comedic show. I'll tell you who's funny. Robert McNeely is a solid professional. He's also able to impersonate anybody, including President Trump. He's funny. Anyway, being an MMA fighter and a plumber, you got a problem with that, Jimmy? Come on, man. What are you doing? Anyway, man, ridiculous how people watch people like that. And the others too. Anyway, let's go to clip number 7. Tom Fitton of Judicial Watch had this to say about the Save America Act. Let's check it out.
Our goal should be to encourage people to vote in person on Election Day. We should not have mass mail-in balloting. We should not have early voting that goes on for weeks and weeks beforehand. And we should demand that systems are in place to ensure that ballots are counted on Election Day, not for days and weeks and months afterwards. And of course, anyone who votes should be required to show a secure photo ID. And certainly anyone who's registered to vote and or who votes should also be confirmed to be a United States citizen. What's so hard about this? You know what's so hard about it? That policy, those basic election integrity measures, are opposed by the left. Why do I think they oppose it? Because it makes it harder to steal elections. And they want to be able to steal elections when possible. There's no other reasonable explanation. It doesn't necessarily impact individuals who are voting it by race or any other classes. So there's nothing discriminatory in these regulations. They pretend they are, but there aren't. You can see that in Georgia, where you've had this tremendous turnout, irrespective of the increased security measures for voting down there. So as long as we have mass mail-in ballots, we're going to have elections that people won't have confidence in.
How many more people do we need to be talking about the fact that the Save America Act needs to be passed? Tom Fitton, a rock star, talking about this. You know, this is something that we're hearing from all sides of the aisle, people all across the country. And there's only the few, 100 senators that are really deciding the fate of literally hundreds of millions of. Let's rewind what I was just saying. There are 100 senators deciding the fate of our elections for 347 million people in our country. Last time I checked, that's the latest number. Of course, that fluctuates every day. 347 million people, the whole United States of America, the whole thing is being decided by 100 senators. That's just the way our government works. We get that. However, when we see the amount of support for the Save America Act, and they can't do what President Trump said on Truth Social earlier today, quote, terminate the filibuster. Come on now. And before we get to our sponsors, I just want to say one more thing about Jimmy Kimmel. So someone that would make fun of somebody that's an MMA fighter and a plumber is an absolute beta male and an absolute omega male. If you don't know what omega male is, check it out. Anyway, let's go to some of our other sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, including Kalshi.com/RSBN. As you see there, Kalshi.com, a lot of places to bet and trade out there, but Kalshi's one of the top, if not number one itself. Millions of people on this site betting, trading, checking out the polls. And there's a lot of topics, including politics and music and weather and sports and faith and technology and on and on and on. Speaking of technology, also space specifically. We're going to get to a NASA video and a United States Space Force video in just a minute. But anyway, one of the questions on there, how long will the DHS shutdown last? You know, that kind of thing. It's all on there. All trending right now, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, let's go to angelpaste.com out of Spring, Texas as well. You can use that RSBN promo code, 10% off. Angelpaste.com. Use the QR code if you'd like. Peruse the site. Purchase some skincare products. Great products there at angelpaste.com. And thanks to the owners for sending a package to the Alvarez household. My wife is enjoying a lot of the Angel Paste products as well, but it's also for men and women. All good. Angelpaste.com. RSBN's the promo code. All right, let's move on. Let's go to clip 8, where the Wyoming Representative Harriet Hageman recently spoke about illegal aliens and driver's licenses in that state, in Wyoming.
Issuance of CDLs must be limited to individuals who are properly vetted, trained, and prepared to react and respond in high-risk situations. One such prerequisite that should always remain uniform among CDL holders is the ability to be proficient in the English language, and to place out of service those who are not. Being able to read, write, and speak English proficiently is a fundamental safety matter that impacts everyone who travels on our roadways. Across Wyoming's highway system, we frequently utilize variable message signage that displays important warnings or instructions to drivers, including for high winds, winter road conditions, black ice, and accidents ahead. Failure to read and understand these messages can lead to disastrous consequences, as we have unfortunately seen on too many recent occasions. Despite this proficiency standard being a long-standing requirement under pre-existing federal regulations, prior administrations have sought to loosen these practices and weaken enforcement, directly threatening the safety of American motorists.
So we're going to be sticking to Wyoming, going to Utah, back to Wyoming with Senator John Barrasso in just a second, as we're talking about a lot of the topics that are being discussed throughout the country, whether online or on TV or wherever. One of the big stories, of course, I'm seeing on Breaking 911 as well, the TSA lines stretching for hours at LaGuardia Airport this morning in New York. That's been happening, obviously, in Houston and Atlanta and other places. But what we're hearing is our ICE agents are helping out, and they're not wearing the masks. They're just there, and people are saying hello to them and saying thank you for your service. Only a few people here and there, the woke-minded ones probably, say anything unkind to them or maybe giving them a certain kind of look. But you know what? Hey, if you're woke, you go broke. If you're woke, you're on the wrong side of history, but hopefully you'll kind of see the light. But you know what? Everybody kind of that I've spoken to recently, Pierre Wilson, who works for tvOS, Rise, a new kind of part of tvOS there, was someone that was on the woke side of things. He admitted that on air here. And he saw Dr. Ben Carson speaking some truth, which we know Dr. Ben Carson's on the right side of history. And he saw what Ben was saying, and it's the light bulb that goes off. That's all it takes, really. And that's why it's an information war. That's why people are wanting you not to talk about certain things out there, right? So we see what's going on. We're tracking with the stories, and really on the right side of history here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. All right, let's go to some of our sponsors here on Right Side as we move on. All Family Pharmacy, as you guys see there. And we want to take a moment to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors right there, All Family Pharmacy. And if you believe in medical freedom or the Make America Healthy Again movement, and maybe you're frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy. They're not a chain, and they give you that direct access to medications like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without the runaround. And right now, exclusively for RSBN viewers, you can get 25% off your order with code RSBN25. Here's how it works. You go to that website right there on the bottom of your screen, and then you fill out a medical form. A licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate, and your medication ships directly to your door. And with spring here and allergies and travel uncertainty in the world, right now is a great time to be prepared. You can order ahead and be ready. This is exactly the kind of American business we should be supporting, of course. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group. Birch Gold Group, specifically, when you think about 2006, $20,000 equaled roughly 33 ounces of gold at spot price. At today's prices, 20 years later, in 2026, those 33 ounces would be worth $165,000. Smart Americans are diversifying a portion of their savings into precious metals. And you might want to consider, buying gold from our friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, as you know, gold has been a store of wealth, and today it's a crucial part of any balanced strategy. And even better, Birch Gold can help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered retirement account in gold. All you have to do is text that number, name Trump, to 989898 to receive that free info kit on gold. No obligation, just useful information there with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and tens of thousands of happy customers. Let Birch Gold help you diversify with gold by texting Trump to 989898. You get that free info kit. We are 6 minutes from the top of the hour. Looking forward to seeing this cabinet meeting, and also will the president take questions from the press in this cabinet meeting? We'll see. We'll have that live coverage. Usually, most of the 11 past or the 10 past cabinet meetings that we've covered here at the network have started at 11 a.m. Eastern. This time, this one's scheduled for 10 a.m. Now, there might be a catch to that in the sense of not from the White House, just in general, if it's delayed at all, because obviously a lot of cabinet members getting to that cabinet room at the White House. It might start a little bit later than 10, but we'll see. Maybe that's something we should put onto kalshi.com/RSBN. Maybe it's already there. Will the cabinet meeting start on time at 10 a.m. Eastern? That means we'd be done in 5 minutes and we'd toss to the White House, so we'll see. Anyway, this is as Utah Senator Mike Lee is saying there should be no Senate recess until a certain legislation passes. Let's go to clip 9.
Human beings are created equal, that we have certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The consent of the governed, that's the key part. It's what differentiates a tyrannical government, which is to say most governments that have ever existed, versus a government in which men and women are allowed to be free.
All right, so we saw there, Mike, we saw there, Mr. Kelly, speaking about this, specifically about the Save America Act. Also, let's go to a number of other videos here in just a second. We'll come back in just a minute.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back. And that was, of course, Utah Senator Mike Lee that we saw prior to that commercial. And before we get to a few of our sponsors, let's just talk about Jimmy one more time, Jimmy Kimmel. All right, so we were thinking of the fact that he was saying, he was trying to make fun of Mark Wayne Mullen, the new Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, by making fun of him that he was a MMA fighter and a plumber in his past life prior to be, this is the point, elected by the people of Oklahoma to be a senator and doing quite the job for Oklahoma, and now part of the Department of Homeland Security. So again, you know, people that are against the alpha male masculinity thing, like Jimmy Kimmel, you're wasting your time. But I mean, I guess there are a few people out there that agree with you, Jimmy, so congratulations on that. All right, let's go to kalshi.com/RSBN quickly here. Now, what will President Trump say in his cabinet meeting is one of the questions on kalshi.com. So people are putting money on the line for this and also just checking out the polls as well. You can do the same if you'd like. Just use that QR code, go to kalshi.com/RSBN or download the app. You can do that all 3 ways to get to kalshi.com. More than 1 million users on Kalshi, all sorts of topics that people are talking about. From weather to politics, sports, faith, all sorts of things. So kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, let's go to Rumble Wallet. You may have seen the conversations happening online lately. Censorship is back and it's happening everywhere. Platforms trying to control narratives and pushing the stuff they want us to see. And we can fight back in that information area because Rumble is one of the only companies that has stood the test of time and deserves our support. Because on one side, Rumble is challenging big tech censorship, but on the other side, they have introduced something that will give us protection from the big banks shutting us off. Now, banks can cancel our accounts and freeze our cards, so that's why Rumble said, you know what, we're going to launch Rumble Wallet, a bank that basically, specifically with Rumble Wallet, you control your money. It's not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, and not even Rumble can touch it. So this is something that you can check out. Go to wallet.rumble.com or download the Rumble Wallet app on your app stores on the bottom right of your screen. Speaking of, app stores, there's a new software update out there for iPhone. There's some pretty cool new emojis on there as well, including Bigfoot. Anyway, I only bring that up because I worked in Pennsylvania as a reporter, as an anchor as well, and I did a story about Bigfoot. And people that I went out there to the woods with, and this was a TV story, really believe that Bigfoot's a real thing, and maybe it is. Anyway, all right, so 10:01, Thursday, March 26th. Let's go to a couple more videos here as we await the President of the United States. Let's go to Wyoming. Senator John Barrasso had this to say about the Save America Act in clip 10.
Adding photo ID requirements would be a significant step toward restoring confidence in elections in all 50 states. So I want to thank Senator John Husted of Ohio. Senator Husted knows exactly about administering elections, and he knows it better than any member of this body. He spent 8 years as Ohio's Secretary of State. His job was to run fair, safe, and secure elections, and he succeeded at it. His amendment makes it easy to vote, harder to cheat, and it does so nationwide. A clean, simple photo ID amendment leaves Democrats with no excuses. They can't claim photo ID is too hard. They can't claim it's too confusing. They can't claim it's too burdensome. The question before the Senate is, will Democrats take a reasonable and responsible step toward what most Americans consider common sense?
And that's what it's about. It's common sense versus no sense at all. And, unfortunately, in the mainstream media, it's all about the no sense at all part. That's just the way it's been. And glad that there's conservative media, glad that there are citizen journalists who have quite the following on X and Truth Social and doing a great job out there. We're kind of all in this together. I get business, I get competition and all that on the conservative side of things, but really, in unison, trying to work for the Constitution and for freedom, which is specifically in the Constitution, and for we the people. So, hey, everybody doing their part, that's great. Those of you that might not be in media or, have an online presence, that kind of thing, all right, cool. Please vote, please pray hard, please work hard, and please keep talking about these various issues, which I'm sure many do. I mean, religion and politics used to be, because I think the left created this, by the way, they always said, don't talk religion and politics. Now, shut up. We're going to talk religion and politics because we want to, and we're allowed to. So, anyway, I'm a little bit, I don't know what I am today. I'm a little bit, I don't know. Just really want to see the Save America Act passed. Anyway, let's shift gears big time. Let's go to NASA. They are gearing up for the Artemis 2 launch for the orbit around the moon. Here's one of their latest videos about that mission.
We shall return.
This is a live look.
We will see things that no human has ever seen.
We want to know what's out there just beyond the horizon.
Amazing live views from the spacecraft.
Coming back to Earth, say we were doing like 5 or 7 miles a second. Those are just not numbers that humans generally think about.
We were always going to the moon.
6, Pushing ourselves 5, to explore is core to who we are.
3. It's in our nature.
1. It's a part of being a human.
And liftoff! 6 million pounds on the pad. 250,000 miles.
Boosters have separated.
When humanity sets big goals, we can accomplish extraordinary things.
looking forward to that Artemis 2 launch, and we'll be able to air that here on Right Side Broadcasting Network when that happens. I think I saw it's going to happen within a week. We can confirm that with a NASA senior advisor who's been on the network here, Bethany Stevens. So maybe we'll get her back on the broadcast to talk more about Artemis and Artemis 2 and NASA. Sticking to the space theme, the United States Space Force has been hard at work. Let's take a look at an update from U.S. Space Command. All right, so a little bit of an update from NASA and from the United States Space Force. Again, as NASA for the Artemis 2 launch, Space Force for their just continued work out in outer space. Also, we're going to go to a couple of our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including Cove Pure. Here's the thing, most people tend to go overboard buying a lot of the supplements and trying that new diet and workout, which is awesome. I should probably do that. But they completely ignore the most important basic thing, water. Now, even mild dehydration impacts energy, focus, and metabolism. And when you think about all the garbage that's in our water, you're starting behind the curve before you even begin. And Cove Pure actually changes this whole thing immediately because they have that clear wave technology that's certified to remove up to 99.9% of contaminants. So pretty much anything that's not water, the things like the PFAs or the microplastics, pharmaceutical residue, fluoride, it all gets removed. It's the purest water you can get. There's no aftertaste like you usually get with tap water, that kind of thing. So you can get the ball rolling here by just going to covepure.com/RSBN. Instead of that big overhaul, you can make that one small upgrade that adds up every single day. Clean water. Right now, you can get that $250 off for a limited time if you use that link, covepure.com/RSBN. Also, Angel Paste out of Spring, Texas. Use that RSBN promo code as well, 10% off. A lot of great products on there. There's the lotions, the mists, and exfoliating cream, if I could say that right, angelpaste.com. Again, hiring military veterans and a great company that's been with us for quite some time. So great to have them aboard here on Right Side Broadcasting Network. 10:07, actually just now 10:08 coming up here any second from now. At least on my iPad it says 10:08. Anyway, let's go to the EPA Director, Lee Zeldin. He recently spoke about American energy under President Trump's leadership in clip number 12.
We want to help people build. We want to unleash energy dominance. Day one executive order by President Trump created the National Energy Dominance Council. We are focused on helping to unleash U.S. energy dominance as much as possible. And we want to help make America the AI capital of the world. And we want more data centers built. And we want these hyperscalers to be able to make these investments. And there are examples where some of these projects are resulting in significant net benefits to the ratepayers in those communities. You take the $4 billion Google project in West Memphis, Arkansas, the state of Arkansas, and Entergy. That's an over $1 billion net benefit to the Entergy ratepayer to build that data center. Those examples need to be amplified and replicated all across the entire country where more of these data centers are being built. And I would say right now what I'm witnessing is a very disproportionate amount of the investment being made in states, not coincidentally, where the state government is working with these investors to help break down barriers and to make sure that it costs as little as possible and that there is as little red tape as possible. And we at EPA want to help that process, working with the hyperscaler, working with the investor, working with the state, working with the local community on air permits, on water permits, to make sure that these are getting over the finish line. And And the coolest part about how much progress has been made in the last year is that now, when I get to travel across the country, I'm seeing groundbreakings all over the place. This is not a conversation where, in theory, we might start to see some groundbreaking in a few years. No, like while we're here having this conversation, ground is now already being broken all across the country. We need to continue to scale that up.
The director of the Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, speaking recently about American energy. Let's also talk about the DHS shutdown. Texas Representative August Pfluger recently speaking about that situation, of course, as we've seen those long lines at various airports around the country.
Mr. Chairman, the reason we're here, despite a video with two people being shown on it, is not that. The reason we're here is because we didn't have a single hearing on border security while the ranking member was the chairman in 2021 and 2022. Not a single hearing. And yet 10 million people were let in under President Joe Biden. Where were the cries when Jocelyn Nungare was murdered? Where were the video cameras when Laken Riley was brutally murdered? We don't have those. They didn't get that. That's why we're here. We're here because we're cleaning up a mess that is on a level and a scale that is unfathomable. President Trump has had to clean up a mess that is on a scale that was unthinkable. 100,000 people died as a result of fentanyl. Where were my Democrat colleagues down in McAllen, Texas, when I went down there and saw a 2-year-old that was left in the brush? Yeah. The emotional outcry over here is the height of hypocrisy. It is so hypocritical. Not a single person down there at a hearing that we held on border security, not a single Democrat had the decency to stand up for Laken Riley's parents at the State of the Union last year. Not a single person had the decency on the Democrat side of the aisle to stand up for Jocelyn Nungare's parents, who were in our chamber. Give me a break.
A lot of great words being spoken on Capitol Hill, and hopefully I hear the words that the U.S. Senate has passed the Save America Act and DHS is fully funded. Good morning once again. Welcome back in here to RSBN Live. I'm Matthew Alvarez. At 10 o'clock or a little bit after, as you see there, the president will hold his 11th cabinet meeting of his second administration, as today is day 41 of the DHS shutdown. And this as the Senate continues to debate the Save America Act. In case you missed it, let's check out a few highlights from President Trump's latest speech in Washington last night.
With the help of our Republican warriors that are right before me in the House, we ended the illegal alien invasion of our country, passed the largest border security investment in history, and achieved the strongest and most secure border on record. I built 1,000 miles of wall, and without that wall, we could have never done what we did. And for 10 months in a row, this is outside, this is the facts. In fact, these numbers are given by people that they say are predominantly Democrat. They're the ones that make it up. For 10 months in a row, 0 illegal aliens have been admitted to the United States of America. Think of that. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We've also accomplished the largest reduction in illegal drugs in history, in the history of our country. Think of that. With the flow, deadly fentanyl across our border is down by 61%. Think of that, 61, not good enough, but I'll tell you what, it's down 98% coming in by water. Do you notice that? And we're trying to find out who the 2% are, because we think they may be the bravest people on earth. Now the Democrats have shut down the Department of Homeland Security in an attempt to return to open borders where criminals come in from all over the world. From the Congo, they come. You know, the Congo opened its jails, released all of its prisoners into the United States of America through the totally open southern border, Sleepy Joe Biden border. The TSA agents have been hurt badly by the Democrats, who made 3 different deals with us over the last short period of time. breaking the original one and then breaking the current ones because they don't want to settle. They want chaos. As I said, so there are great military triumphs against Iran can't be displayed on television because they're displaying airports. But I have to tell you, they did one thing that's been helpful. We decided to use our great patriots of ICE. These people are great. They have endured so much punishment, all because they want to get murderers, drug dealers, people who are totally mentally insane, many of the worst criminals in the world, get them out of our country. And in so doing, I sent ICE to the airports yesterday, and they have been so great. They have been so great. And you know what's happened? And they didn't need any rehabilitation, but they did in terms of the fake news. And they're doing such an unbelievable job at the airports that they had one line. It was 4 hours yesterday, and today it was a half an hour. Big difference. And if we have to, we're going to send in the National Guard if we need to, because we only, we have 6,000 ICE agents, and we have 40,000 of the other people that they're helping out, some of who really were forced because the Democrats don't want to pay them. The Democrats don't want to pay them. You have to remember that. The radical left Democrats need to get DHS back and open immediately. Americans saw the true and craven nature of Congressional Democrats during my State of the Union, and we're not going to let that happen again. They really are. They're a party, and it's terrible to talk. I want it to be the old way where they got, Democrats, Republicans used to get together, have lunch, and then they'd fight a little bit, and, but it doesn't seem to be happening that way. And this is before me. Because if you go back to Obama, he was a great divider. He divided this nation. He was a lousy president. The worst president in history was Biden. But Obama was a terrible president. He was a divider. He did so many bad things. But they're the party of fraudsters, criminals, radicals, illegal aliens, high taxes, and putting America last. That's what they are. They put America last. Republicans are the party for every hardworking patriot. And we do something very much different than them. We put America first. If our Republican majority stand up for these priorities, the American people will stand with us in record numbers. We have to be strong. We have to be tough. And we can't let these thugs on the other side of the aisle push us around. Because what they're doing right now is wrong. And the public knows it. Now the public knows it. And they're on our side. But you have to fight, and you have to be tough. You have to be much tougher. And you have to stick together. Republicans have to stick together.
All right, so President Trump speaking at the Union Station just yesterday in Washington, D.C. So thanks again for joining us here on Right Side. Of course, we're awaiting the live picture to the White House for the cabinet room meeting there, the 11th cabinet meeting in President Trump's second administration. So we'll see if the president will be taking questions after that. We'll see how many cabinet leaders speak. Maybe it will go all the way around the room like we've seen in the past, but it's always good to hear the transparency from government. Also, more transparency is always good too. Accountability is great. Also, the Save America Act passing. Before we get to some more of the latest videos, we just saw one come down from the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, on Capitol Hill, talking about the DHS shutdown, day 41. Let's go to a few of our sponsors here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, including All Family Pharmacy, as you see there. And we can take a moment there to tell you about one of our trusted sponsors here with All Family Pharmacy. If you're someone who believes in medical freedom and who supports the MAHA movement and who's frustrated with a healthcare system that puts insurance companies and government bureaucrats between you and your doctor, All Family Pharmacy is for you. They are an independent American pharmacy, not a chain, and they give you direct access to the medications you need, including ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, methylene blue, and more than 400 generic medications without the runaround. And right now, exclusively for RSBN viewers, you can get 25% off your order with that code, RSBN25. So simply you go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, then you fill out that medical form. A licensed U.S. physician reviews your request, prescribes if appropriate. The medications get shipped to your door. So obviously with spring here and allergies and travel and uncertainty in various parts of the world causing some shipment problems, right now is still the time to be prepared. You can order ahead and be ready. This is exactly the kind of American business we can support. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 25% off using the RSBN 25 promo code. Let's also go to Birch Gold Group. All you have to do is text Trump to 989898 to get the ball rolling. You get the free info kit on gold. Specifically, they have that A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. And also, back in the day, in 2006, at spot price, 33 ounces of gold was $20,000. Now, the same amount is $165,000. So there's a lot of change that has happened, no pun intended, in the past 20 years. So you can get that ball rolling. Text Trump to 989898. You'll get a free info kit on gold, no obligation. And these guys are great. They won't pressure you at all. I've actually texted Trump to 989898 because we talk about doing that here on the network. Might as well do it ourselves too, right? And see what it's like. Well, it's a great experience if you're looking for that free info kit. So go ahead and text Trump to 989898. 10:21 Eastern Time. Let's go to the Speaker of the House. Mike Johnson had this to say a few minutes ago about day 41 of the DHS shutdown.
We will not allow Democrats to hold our airports and our country hostage so they can re-implement their catastrophic, deadly open borders policies and threaten the lives of our children. This is common sense versus crazy. Everybody can see it, and they're going to put it on display again tomorrow. As the leader said, we're going to vote to fund Homeland again. And I think that vote tally, that should be blown up. It should be put as poster size in every airport terminal so they can see who voted to keep those lines at TSA winding around the airports and to endanger everybody's life.
All right, so just seeing that video is actually from just yesterday, so just to be accurate on that. All right, let's do this. Let's go to clip number 2 at this point, as we are still standing by for that cabinet meeting there at the White House. As soon as we see that live feed, we'll take you there directly. Speaking of the White House, though, here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, just recently, we covered the event all about the Medal of Honor. Here are a few highlights from that event.
The President of the United States of America has posthumously awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Master Sergeant Roderick W. Edmonds, United States Army.
1941, Roddy Edmonds of Knoxville, Tennessee, enlisted in the U.S. Army and soon rose to one of the youngest master sergeants in the military.
On the evening of January 26, 1945, the Germans announced that only Jewish American prisoners would fall out for roll call the following morning at the threat of execution.
There were more than 200 Jewish American soldiers in the camp, and Roddy knew their separation from the group would mean certain death. So that night he summoned his team and devised a plan. The next morning, all 1,200 American men fell in line together, shoulder to shoulder.
The Commandant removed his pistol, pressed it hard against Master Sergeant Edmonds' forehead between his eyes, and demanded that he order all Jewish American prisoners to step forward or he would be shot. Master Sergeant Edmonds fearlessly held his ground, refusing to concede.
The Nazi officer lowered his weapon and the soldiers erupted in cheers. With total disregard for his own life, Roddy had saved over 200 of his fellow service members.
Master Sergeant Edmonds gallantly led these prisoners in a relentless pursuit of opposition and resistance, forcing the Germans to abandon the camp, leaving the 1,200 American prisoners behind.
Congratulations to the family of Master Sergeant Roddy Edmonds.
The President of the United States of America has posthumously awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Michael H. Allis, United States Army.
After 9/11, Michael enlisted in the Army, and by 24 years old, he was in. He was locked in. He loved it. He wanted it so badly. He was a squad leader serving in Afghanistan with the 2nd Battalion, 22nd Infantry Regiment, 1st Brigade Combat Team of the legendary 10th Mountain Division.
A complex enemy attack involving multiple vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices, suicide vests, indirect fire, and small arms fire was launched against Forward Operating Base Hanzi.
From across the compound, Michael saw the pillar of white smoke rising and ran to join the fight, rushing without his gear. Along the way, he encountered a Polish soldier, and together they advanced under heavy fire, very, very heavy fire.
While fighting along the perimeter, an insurgent came around the corner. Staff Sergeant Aulis fired on the insurgent and incapacitated him, but as he approached the downed insurgent, the insurgent's suicide vest detonated and mortally wounded him.
He charged the wounded Polish soldier without hesitation. Michael raised his gun and forced himself between the insurgent and the man he just met, shielding him with his own body.
Staff Sergeant Aulis's exceptional courage and complete disregard for personal safety were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon him, his unit in the United States Army. The President of the United States of America has awarded in the name of Congress the Medal of Honor to Staff Sergeant Terry P. Richardson, United States Army.
102 brave men of Terry's Alpha Company were asked with securing Hill 222 deep behind the enemy's line in Vietnam. They didn't know it at the time, had no idea, but the area was totally infested with nearly 300 enemy bunkers. Pinned down in hell on earth, Terry summoned unimaginable courage. 3 times he exposed himself to enemy fire to rescue severely wounded comrades, and 3 times he dragged them back to the group.
Staff Sergeant Richardson recognized that the only way to keep his company from being overrun was with accurate tactical airstrikes.
Acting without regard of his own life, he grabbed a radio and charged up Hill 222 alone.
He began to direct the tactical airstrikes and shortly thereafter became wounded by an enemy sniper. Staff Sergeant Richardson's continued directing the tactical airstrikes for 7 more hours before the enemy broke contact.
Due to Terry's actions above and beyond the call of duty, 82 men, Alpha Company, survived this battle, including 2 in this room, Norm Meyer and Dave Himmer. Terry, today you enter the ranks of the bravest warriors ever to stride the face of the earth.
Quite the event there at the White House. It was pretty awesome here in Alabama just a few months back for Veterans Day, where there was an event and there were people that were Medal of Honor recipients. Always a powerful moment to meet our great veterans. Also, of course, still looking at that Thomas Jefferson Memorial. Great to see it. A few people out there, I guess. That's quite the far distance of a vantage point. But again, awaiting the White House event, of course, the cabinet meeting, the 11th meeting of the second Trump administration when it comes to the cabinet meeting. So as soon as we see that feed, we'll take you there. Let's go to Missouri now, specifically still on Capitol Hill, though. The Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt had some recent comments on funding DHS. Take a look.
There are moments when a policy debate stops being a policy debate, when all the abstractions fall away, when all the buzzwords and talking points and legal jargon fall away. And what we're left with is a very simple question about the first duty of government. Sanctuary policies force this question, because this is not really about federalism, it's not really about local control, and it certainly isn't about compassion. It's about who comes first, the American citizen or the illegal alien. And sanctuary jurisdictions have answered that question. They've answered it with their laws. They've answered it with their policies. They've answered it with their conduct. They put the illegal alien first. That is what a sanctuary policy means in the real world. An illegal alien commits a crime and gets arrested by local law enforcement. That arrest tells government exactly where the person is. Federal immigration authorities then make a very simple request. Let us know when this person is being released so that we can take him into custody and begin the removal proceedings. That is not some extraordinary burden. That is not a constitutional crisis. That is not conscription. That is basic cooperation. It's the kind of coordination that happens every single day between state, local, and federal law enforcement in every other context. And yet, when the subject is immigration, sanctuary jurisdictions refuse. They withhold the information, they block the transfer, they release the alien, and then they send the alien back into the community. That is a choice, a very deliberate choice, and it's a choice that gets people hurt. Sometimes it gets people killed.
All right, so we're going to go to the Utah Senator Mike Lee having the following to say on the Senate floor. But before I get to that, these are videos that are posted within 5-10 minutes in some cases, specifically the one you're about to see. So a shout out to the production crew here at Right Side Broadcasting Network in order to bring you all of these different clips that we're seeing. A shout out to them. All right, let's go to clip 16.
If everyone is family, no one is family. If everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. If everyone is given the benefit of citizenship by allowing them to vote, then citizenship means nothing. That is the core message that I wish our Democrat colleagues would accept, and I am confident they will ultimately accept as we continue to make this argument. Because we're not going away. I'm not going away. I will be back on this floor, in this chamber, day after day, week after week, month after month, as long as it takes. I'm not giving up. Not a chance in hell am I giving up on this, because this is about the American dream itself. This is about the fact that when you allow non-citizens to vote, you are robbing something from the American people, from each individual American citizen, something which is distinctively, rightfully theirs. You cannot take that away. You are taking it away when you allow somebody else to cast a vote that will cancel out yours. That, Mr. President, is unfair. It is unacceptable. It is un-American. It is illegal. We must not tolerate it, and we will not.
Amen. Did you hear that? Holy smokes. Director, let's play it again. Mike Lee, Utah Senator, spitting the truth right there on the U.S. Senate floor. This is all about the Save America Act. But also, guys, he's talking about specifically in another clip as well, no recess, no Easter break, no vacations. Why would you go on all of that when there's something that is so crucial for our country to be passed? Let's go back to the Utah Senator, Mike Lee.
Human beings are created equal, that we have certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The consent of the governed, that's the key part. It's what differentiates a tyrannical government, which is to say most governments that have ever existed, versus a government in which men and women are allowed to be free. If everyone is family, no one is family. If everything is urgent, nothing is urgent. If everyone is given the benefit of citizenship by allowing them to vote, then citizenship means nothing. That is the core message that I wish our Democrat colleagues would accept, and I am confident they will ultimately accept as we continue to make this argument. Because we're not going away. I'm not going away. I will be back on this floor, in this chamber, day after day, week after week, month after month, as long as it takes. I'm not giving up. Not a chance in hell am I giving up on this, because this is about the American dream itself. This is about the fact that when you allow non-citizens to vote, you are robbing something from the American people, from each individual American citizen, something which is distinctively, rightfully theirs. You cannot take that away. You are taking it away when you allow somebody else to cast a vote that will cancel out yours. That, Mr. President, is unfair. It is unacceptable. It is un-American. It is illegal. We must not tolerate it, and we will not.
Nothing to say, nothing to add. I can listen to that soundbite all day long, and we will play it again, especially if the cabinet meeting continues to be slightly delayed. We're not receiving word that it's delayed. It's just obvious. It was supposed to start at 10 o'clock, but that's how it is. A lot of cabinet members getting into that cabinet room there at the White House. We'll take you there live as soon as we see it. But again, I really wish we could just play that one on repeat until the president starts talking, because what he's saying, the Utah Senator Mike Lee, is right on. All right, let's do this. Instead of, we're going to go to a CENTCOM update here in just a second, Director, but let's go to a throwback Thursday to a couple years ago on the campaign trail when President Trump had this to say about what is now known as the Save America Act.
It used to be election day. Now I call it election period. We have 62 days in some cases, 62 days, where they have it 2 months before. You can vote 2 months before. And in case you need more time after the election is over, you get 2 weeks extra. You don't even know it's so horrible what they're doing. We should have all paper ballots, voter ID, and same-day voting.
So that from just a couple years ago on the campaign trail. We'll take photo ID, which is in the Save America Act. We'll take the proof of citizenship as well, of course, to register to vote in federal elections. We'll also take the mail-in ballots, no more of those unless it's medical or military or other instances. All right, so we'll also take no men and women's sports, which is part of the Save America Act, and no child mutilization of our children. So those 5 points are specifically the 5 points within the Save America Act. So we've been hearing a lot from Utah Senator Mike Lee and many others on the Senate floor. We've been hearing from Judicial Watch's Tom Fitton. We've been hearing from a lot of people. Everyone's saying this is a common sense, we should do this. And, again, mentioned earlier, actually earlier this week, I posted something about no vacations for U.S. senators until the Save America Act passes. Of course, Mike Lee saying the same thing on the Senate floor. There are tax dollars being paid for their salaries. We want what we want, and we're the boss, aren't we? We the people, a government of, by, and for the people. So we want the Save America Act passed. All right. So I wonder if Grok on X would be able to count the amount of times that I've said Save America Act. Anyway, let's go to the president.
Nice to see you, Brian. Brian's been on an excursion. Right? Okay. Hi, how are you? Are you all ready? A lot of media, as usual. So thank you to the incredible members of my cabinet. They're doing a phenomenal job. Everybody pretty much agrees to that, including our newest member, Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen. Thank you, Mark. And we all know him very well, and he was a very popular senator, very effective senator. Effective probably being the more important word. JD, don't you think?
Yes, sir.
And we wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
I think you'll do fantastically well. Congratulations to you. You have an amazing family that were here yesterday in the Oval, sworn in. His family's amazing, so thank you very much. We're now on day 41 of the disgraceful Democrat shutdown of Mark Wayne's department. Congratulations. You came into a department that shut down by the radical Democrats, right? But Democrats are really punishing the American people. I saw it today on one of the shows where they were interviewing people at the airport, and they were all angry at the Democrats. They're saying they're actually angry at Schumer. I didn't think anyone knew his name. One woman said, that Schumer is disgraceful. He's a disgrace to our country. But they're angry at the Democrats. They know what's happening. But they're punishing the American people, including travelers at airports, all in the quest to return to open borders and give amnesty to illegal alien criminals. They want to give amnesty to some of the criminals that came into our country, just about all of them, actually, if you look at it. They love sanctuary cities, which is a sanctuary for criminals. They want to make sure they're taken care of. That's what we're fighting about. That's really what they're fighting. They don't talk about that, but that's what they're fighting about. They want to protect criminals. In many cases, 11,888 murders. Many of them, I will say, are gone now because of us. We got them out. But still have some left. Should have never happened, should have never been allowed to come into our country. But we're not going to let it happen. We're not going to let the Democrats get away with this stuff, and people are wise to them. So they need to end the shutdown immediately, or we'll have to take some very drastic measures. This morning I want to give an update on the Operation Epic Fury, which is an appropriate name because we are absolutely obliterating them. Over the past 3 weeks, we've been hitting Iran's military capabilities at a level that few people have ever seen before. People never knew there was such a capability. We have the strongest military anywhere in the world by far. I built it during my first administration, and I used it during my second administration. Unfortunately, because I'd rather not have to use it. But it's a display of force and precision and skill like nothing the world has really witnessed, although you got a pretty good witnessing of it in Venezuela also. That was a smaller version of what we're doing now. We're crushing their missiles and drone stockpiles, destroying the defense industrial base. We've wiped out their Navy completely, their Air Force completely. We've wiped out a large percentage of their missiles. And the missile launchers, without the launchers, the missiles don't do any good. And we've knocked out probably close to 90% of the launchers, probably more than 90% of the missiles themselves. Between some they fired and more than they fired, we knocked out. We've also destroyed a lot of the factories. We're continuing to do that, but a lot of the factories where they manufacture the drones and the missiles. The drones, too, are way down, but the reason they're down is they go one way and they don't come back, because for the most part, we're shooting them down. But we also are able to, we've really done tremendous damage to the places where they make them. And just so we set the record straight, because I've been watching the Wall Street Journal's fake news and all these stories that get printed like, oh, I want to make a deal. They are begging to make a deal, not me. They're begging to make a deal. And anybody that saw what was happening over there would understand why they want to make a deal. But they say, oh, we're not talking to them. Anybody would know they're talking. And only a total fool. And they're not fools. They're very smart, actually, in a certain way. And they're great negotiators. I say they're lousy fighters, but they're great negotiators. They are begging to work out a deal. I don't know if we'll be able to do that. I don't know if we're willing to do that. They should have done that 4 weeks ago. They should have done it 2 years ago. Or they should have done it when we first came into office, because 2 years ago they had free reign under Biden. Sleepy Joe, worst president in the history of our country. What he allowed to happen to our country at the borders, and even with a thing like this. But not just him. Every president for 47 years, every president should have done this. They should have done it a long time ago, because you cannot give lunatics a nuclear weapon, and they would have had a big one. It stopped really when we did the B-2, but even before that, the Barack Hussein Obama, what he did where he gave them the Iran nuclear deal, gave them free will toward a nuclear weapon. Basically, he chose Iran over Israel and others that didn't want him to do it. But I terminated that deal. Had I not terminated that deal, you would have had a nuclear weapon years ago, and it would have been used, guaranteed. And one of the reasons you know about the guarantee is because their neighbors were sort of like bystanders. They weren't involved very much. They didn't choose heavy sides. They didn't want to, because people were concerned with Iran. There was a big black cloud over the Middle East. They were concerned, but all of a sudden the war starts, and they start shooting at these five countries. They start shooting at Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Oman. They start shooting at them, and everybody was shocked, including us. You know why? Because they're sick, and they had a plan to take over the Middle East. And some of those missiles that were shot at them were locked long before we even started this process. They were locked and loaded and aimed at those countries. They wanted to take over the Middle East. But we happened to come along, so it wasn't so easy. So right now their Navy is sunk in the largest elimination of a foreign Navy that has taken place, maybe ever, but certainly since World War II. Their Air Force is gone. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled. And one of the problems they do have when they deal with us is we deal with people, and the people aren't able to communicate with anybody else. So, because all of their leadership has been gone. The first level is gone, and they met to pick a new level, and they're gone. They're all gone because they didn't make a deal, and because they're sick people. They're really sick. They're really sinister, sick people. And if anybody thinks it was okay to have a group of people like this to have nuclear capability, nuclear weapons, and if we didn't attack with the B-2 bombers, they would have had a nuclear weapon within 2 weeks of that, maybe 4 weeks. But between 2 and 4 weeks, they were planning to have a nuclear weapon. If we didn't hit them at that time with the B-2 bombers, and one of the great air raids in history, maybe the greatest, dark at night, no moon, no light, every single bomb hit its mark and just obliterated that place. So it's now buried deep under earth. And it was an amazing thing, but they would have a nuclear, and they would have used it without question. And you know that because why did they shoot all these countries that weren't even really involved with them? They weren't involved. They had no big problems because they're sick, because they want to take over the Middle East, not just Israel. Certainly Israel would have been the first on their list. They would have used nuclear weapons, a nuclear, you don't need too many of them, but they would have used a nuclear weapon on Israel, and they would have used it on the neighbors, and then they would have come after us. And if we had a weak president, they would have done great damage. But fortunately, you don't have a weak president. I knew what was happening. And I think we've been proven right. You know, they took one missile, it went 2,500 miles. They supposedly didn't have a missile like that. They had no missile with that capability. But they shot the now famous Ireland, the island that the UK was very afraid to give us because they didn't want to get dragged in. But we don't want to get dragged into their wars either. You know, it's one thing we're very disappointed. I'll say it publicly. We're very disappointed with NATO because NATO has done absolutely nothing. And I've always said, 25 years ago, I mean, I was somebody that wasn't a politician, but I was always involved in politics and I understood politics. I said 25 years ago that NATO's a paper tiger, but more importantly, that we'll come to their rescue, but they will never come to ours. And I want you to remember that we said this. They didn't come to our rescue. Now they all want to help. When they're annihilated, the other side is annihilated, they said, we'd love to send ships. They actually made a statement, a couple of them, that we want to get involved when the war's over. No, it's supposed to get involved when the war's beginning, or even before it begins. We had the UK say that we'll send, this is 3 weeks ago, we'll send our aircraft carriers, which aren't the best aircraft carriers, by the way. They're toys compared to what we have. But we'll send our aircraft carrier when the war is over. I said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Don't bother. We don't need it. And we don't need it, and we don't need them. We estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission, and we're way ahead of schedule. If you look at what we've done in terms of the destruction of that country, I mean, we're way ahead. Think of it, they have no Navy, and they had good ships. 154 ships have been shot down and are resting very nicely at the bottom of the sea. And we did that in a matter of less than a week. Because we have the greatest military in the world by far, nobody even close. So we estimated it would take approximately 4 to 6 weeks to achieve our mission. 26 days in, we're extremely, really a lot ahead of schedule. The Iranian regime is now admitting to itself that they have been decisively defeated. They're saying to people, this is a disaster. They know it. That's why they're talking to us. They wouldn't talk otherwise. But they're talking to us because they've got a disaster in their hands. They're defeated. They can't make a comeback. We're free to roam over their cities and towns and destroy all of their crazy nuclear weapons and missiles and drones that they're building. Oh, we're doing that. They now have a chance to make a deal, but that's up to them. And they'll tell you, we're not negotiating. We will not negotiate. Of course they're negotiating. They've been obliterated. Who wouldn't negotiate? They are begging to make a deal. We'll see if we can make the right deal. And if they make the right deal, then the strait will open up. Hormuz Strait will open up. And even now, we don't know if there are any mines. You know, they have 22 they call mine droppers. Think of it. Who would have 22 mine droppers? There's a boat that drops mines. Who has 22 mine droppers? Except for people with very evil intention. So every one of those mine droppers has been struck with the same weapon we used to stop drugs from coming into the United States of America. When we hit those boats, it's the exact same weapon, extremely effective. We have unlimited supplies and extremely effective. But they have no more mine droppers. By the way, speaking of drugs, we're 98% down drugs coming in by water, by the ocean, by the sea. 98%. And we're trying to find out who are the 2% because we think they're the bravest men anywhere in the world. Maybe women. But whoever's on those boats is very brave or doesn't watch television. But where drugs coming in by sea, coming in by water, are 98% down. And now we'll stop the drugs coming in by land. The land is the easy one. You had to stop the water. A lot of it came in through the water. Now it's all pinched. And these people are trying to come in by land. And we will, that's it. That's the easy one. But we had to take care of the water first. Nobody's coming in. Virtually nothing is coming in anymore. It was hundreds of millions of dollars a week were coming in by water. But they now have the chance, that is Iran, to permanently abandon their nuclear ambitions and to chart a new path forward. We'll see if they want to do it. If they don't, we're their worst nightmare. In the meantime, we'll just keep blowing them away, unimpeded, unstopped. Well, there's not a thing they can do about it. They can't do anything about it, you know. I tell you, if they could, you'd be hearing about it. You'd be hearing about it. You don't hear anything about it. They can't shoot our jets. We have the best military equipment in the world. No, not even a contest. You see that with Venezuela. They had other equipment. They didn't have ours. It didn't work. Think of it. We did the situation in Venezuela. It was a great military operation, getting a very, very dangerous man who's killed a lot of people, forced people into our country. Incredible. He emptied his prisons in Venezuela, emptied his prisons into our country, and I hope that charge will be brought at some point, because that was a big charge that hasn't been brought yet. It should be brought. He emptied his prisons into our country and was a major purveyor of drugs coming into our country. And he's now been captured and he'll, I guess be given a fair trial. But I would imagine there are other trials coming because they've really sued him just in a fraction of the kind of things that he's done. Other cases are going to be brought, as you probably know. In the meantime, with Iran, we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and nobody's a match for the United States, but they're not a match for the United States. It's small potatoes. That's why I'm so disappointed in NATO, because this was a test for NATO. This was a test. You can help us. You don't have to, but if you don't if you don't do that, we're going to remember. Just remember this in a number of months from now. Remember my statements. They have an expression, a great expression, never forget. You can never forget. So as we end threats to America abroad, we're focused here at home on building the greatest economy in the history of the world. Now, before this started, the Dow hit 50,000. The S&P hit 7,000. Both of those achievements were not achievable. Every one of you, most of you, I guess, said you'll never hit 50,000 during a 4-year period because it was too high a number. Well, we hit it in our first year. And I said, well, now we have to take an excursion to Iran and we have to stop this maniac who's no longer with us. The supreme leader wasn't so supreme, no longer with us. It's very sad. But we have to stop him from blowing up the world, blowing up the Middle East, and blowing up our country, and we did that. And frankly, I thought the oil prices would go up more, and I thought the stock market would go down more. It hasn't been nearly as severe as I thought. I think they have confidence in maybe the American president and maybe the people sitting around this table. But Americans filing their taxes this year are receiving record-setting refunds. It's been a very big story. Well, it should be a big story. I don't think you write about it that much, but I speak about it. I speak about it because if I speak about it, at least people hear. You don't write about it. You don't write about the drug prices going down. It'll be going down 30, 40, 50, 60%, 70%. Favored nations. Called most favored nations. We're going to be paying the lowest price anywhere in the world. Before we paid the highest price in the world, Bobby, right? And now we're going to pay the lowest price in the world. That's quite a difference. It's a difference of from 40 to 70 and 80 and even 90%. That's a pretty big difference. But we're slashing regulations, and investment is pouring in from all over the world. We have the most investment of any country in history has been put into our country in the last year. And again, we had to take a little detour. Won't be long. Going to end soon. We had to take a little detour, go to Iran, and we had to put out a fire. Very dangerous fire that could have blown up big portions of the world, if not the whole thing. So tomorrow we'll be announcing a variety of actions that we're taking to support American farmers, who we never forget. We love the farmers. We gave them $12 billion out of tariff money. We had a tremendous amount of tariff money come in. And we continue to have. We've gone, as you know, the Supreme Court gave us a very unfortunate, foolish ruling. A ruling that gives the people that have ripped off our country for many years, gives them some money back. But it's one of those things. It's a terrible, terrible, horrible mistake they made, but it's okay because we have another method that's just as good. We'll use the other method. But because the tariff money has been so substantial, we gave our farmers, who have been mistreated by some countries, we gave them $12 billion, and they're extremely happy, and they deserve it. They've been great. They never complain. They just go out and they farm, and they wouldn't do anything different. They wouldn't trade jobs with any of you, except maybe some of the fake media. I don't know. Somehow I don't see that. I like their job better, actually. I love the farmers. So we gave them $12 billion. So in just a few moments, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent will discuss the actions that we're taking to address energy prices, which have not gone up as much as I thought, Scott, to be honest with you. And, you know, it's not over, so maybe it'll go up a little bit more. It's all going to come back down to where it was, and probably lower. And my predictions have been right. Trump was right about everything. They have a new hat. Trump was right about everything. It's pretty right. But Scott's going to address that. And I think before we go very much further, I want to ask Vice President J.D. Vance to say a few words about where we are with the situation. He's involved with Steve and with Jared on negotiations. And then some of the others will speak. We'll have Marco say a few words. Pete Hegseth, who was born for this role. I mean, he's doing a great job. They gave him a hard time. And now people, I'll tell you, somebody came up to me yesterday, gave you a very hard time, said, you know, I made a mistake. Pete Hegseth is doing a good job. So when I tell you who, you're not even going to believe it. He said, Hegseth, he gave you such a nasty hard time. But you're doing great. And then Steve is going to speak, and Scott will speak last. And if we have any questions, we'll take some questions. You may have questions. I doubt it, but you may have some questions. So, JD, please.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you. It's good to see everybody. Proud to be part of this team. Proud to be serving the president of the country. Let me just say a couple things. The first of all is the president summarized this very ably. But look, the Iranian conventional military is effectively destroyed. They don't have a Navy. They don't have the ability to hit us like they could have even a few weeks ago. And what that does is that gives us options, Mr. President. Now, there's been a lot of reporting about diplomatic options, about negotiations. There's, of course, Pete and his team. There are further military options. But what we have now that we didn't have when the president took over just a little over a year ago is the ability to use every tool at our disposal to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon. Because when I say options, I think it's important the American people know options for what? And it's options to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. You talk about people who walk into a crowded supermarket and have a vest on, and they blow up the vest and a couple of people get killed, and that's a terrible tragedy. What happens when what's on the vest is not something that can kill a couple of people, but can kill many, many tens of thousands of people? That is the most important American national security objective that exists for any administration at any time, is you don't want the worst people in the world to have a nuclear weapon. That's why the president is doing this. That's why the president cares so much about this particular issue. I'll let Steve talk a little bit about the details of the negotiation. But the last thing I'll say before I turn it over to Marco is I'm very mindful, of course, that we have a lot of folks overseas fighting very ably for the United States of America. I know Pete and the whole team, we're very proud of them, but they're fighting at a time where we are about to enter as Christians the most important week of the Christian calendar, the Holy Week that celebrates the return of Jesus Christ to Jerusalem. And so I want to say to all of my fellow American Christians, but particularly those serving in the Gulf, that I wish you all a very blessed Easter, a very blessed Holy Week, and we continue to stand behind you and continue to support you every step of the way. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Marco?
The most important job any president has is to keep the American people safe. And every president says it, but we have a president that means it and does something about it. As the president outlined very clearly to the world on the night this operation began, Iran has been at war with the United States for 47 years. For 47 years, Iran has been killing Americans and attacking Americans across this planet. And other presidents had an opportunity to do something about it. And they all warned about how Iran was dangerous, but they refused to act. And this president's not someone that's going to refuse to act. He's not going to leave a danger like this in place. He's going to address it, and that is what he is doing. From the very first night of this operation, the president made it very clear. People like this, and now what I'm talking about is not the people of Iran. The people that run this country are radical Shia clerics. These are religious fanatics. Look what they are doing now. At their weakest point, this is the weakest Iran has ever been, and look at what they're doing. They're attacking embassies. They're attacking hotels. Imagine what these people would do if they had a nuclear weapon. That is an unacceptable risk for the world. By the way, the president's not just doing a favor to the United States and to our people. This is for the world. He defined very clearly on the first night of this operation what the goal was. We were going to destroy Iran's Navy, and that is happening. We were going to, if it hasn't already happened, I'll let Pete speak to the specifics of it. We were going to destroy their missile launching capabilities. We're well on our way to achieving that goal. We were going to destroy the factory so they couldn't make more missiles and more drones. And that is moving forward. Every single objective the president clearly laid out on the first night of this operation is being effectuated. Again, Pete will speak to the specifics of it. This has been an incredibly successful operation. Every day, it may not get covered because, we're unlike them, we're not bombing embassies and hotels, we're hitting military targets. But every day, the Department of War lets the drummer get wicked over every portion of Iran that has these military capabilities, and the results are going to bear fruit for the world. The world is going to be a safer and a better place when President Trump's mission here is achieved. And frankly, I think countries around the world, even those that are out there complaining about this a little bit, should actually be grateful that the United States has a president that's willing to confront a threat like this and not allow it to continue to persist. Because these people will kill as many Americans as they have a chance to do, and if they have a nuclear weapon, as the Vice President pointed out, they could kill millions of Americans in the future, and that is a risk that was not going to continue to exist as long as we had this president.
Thank you, Marco. It's very interesting because yesterday I was watching, is it Anthony Blinken, and he was saying that they should have done it, but they didn't do it. Nobody did it. Nobody did it. For 47 years, Marco, that's the number, 47. I guess now it's 48 because we've been saying 47 for a long time. It's probably 48. But for 47, 48 years, every president should have done this. And some are saying now that they made a big mistake in not doing it, but we're taking care of business. Steve Woodcock, please.
Mr. President, it is my distinct honor to be a member of your cabinet and to report to you and your team on our negotiations with Iran. Mr. President, you directed Jared and I to pursue a diplomatic resolution with Iran prior to Operation Epic Fury, which we did. However, it became quite clear during these meetings with the Iranian negotiating team that we could not make a deal that fulfilled your objectives of the following: no enrichment whatsoever, no chance of weaponizing whatsoever, decommissioning of Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan, which you destroyed in Operation Midnight Hammer, no stockpiling of any material, which they flagrantly violated, turning all enriched material over to us, and a cutback in Iran's missile inventory and range capability of those same missiles. Throughout our meetings with the Iranians, we heard the following from them. the Iranians have the inalienable right to enrich. Then we heard they possessed enough 60% enriched material, 460 kilograms, to make 11 atomic bombs. Finally, we heard the following statement. They would not give up diplomatically what we could not win militarily. In other words, they were again miscalculating the success of Midnight Hammer, which was a total success. These are incontrovertible signs among many other signs, sir, that their regime had not given their negotiating team authority to make a deal required by you. We conferred with you and all the other members of your foreign policy team, Susie Wiles, Pete Hegseth, the chairman, Marco Rubio, JD, Scott Bessent, Chris Wright, John Radcliffe, throughout all of these negotiations, and we were repeatedly rebuffed on everything we asked for. I have no doubt that we exhausted all efforts on behalf of a peaceful resolution, as you directed. Jared and I both agreed that the Iranians were there to buy time until a weaker president arrived. This was a flawed strategy, as your clear direction was to never allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon today or any time in the future. Against that backdrop and our compelling military successes in epic fury, we have had multiple reach outs from the region and others who want to play a role in ending this conflict peacefully. I can report to you today that we have, along with your foreign policy team, presented a 15-point action list that forms the framework for a peace deal. This has been circulated through the Pakistani government, acting as the mediator. And this has resulted in strong and positive messaging in talks, as you just indicated to the press. But these are sensitive diplomatic discussions, and you have directed us to maintain confidentiality on the specific terms and not negotiate through the news media as others do. I can say this, we will see where things lead, and if we can convince Iran that this is the inflection point with no good alternatives for them, other than more death and destruction. We have strong signs that this is a possibility, and if a deal happens, it will be great for the country of Iran, for the entire region, and the world at large. Your policy of peace through strength is the most effective tool for a diplomatic resolution here, just as this policy was an effective tool in each and every one of all of the other conflicts you settled in your first year. Iran is looking for an off-ramp following your powerful threat on Saturday. Your indications that you are willing to listen to peace proposals have been well received. You have instructed us that your preference is always peace, and that we should make that our priority. We have delivered that message, sir, along with the 15 points for peace. Finally, we have told Iran one last thing. Don't miscalculate again.
Thank you very much. Everybody around this table has done a great job. Pete Hegseth, please.
Mr. President. I'll start kind of where you left off, Mr. President. Thank you for doing the work of the free world and having the courage to step up and stop the Iranian terror regime from holding the world hostage. That's really what it is. And 27 days ago, Iran had a modern military. Never in recorded history has a nation's military been so quickly and effectively neutralized. Operation Epic Fury is not an endless war. It's a decisive campaign with clear objectives to destroy Iran's offensive military capabilities and ensure they never obtain a nuclear weapon. This is stuff for the history books. This is stuff for legacy. Mr. President, you are acting now to ensure future generations do not have to live under the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. However, you wouldn't know it if you listened to the dishonest hate Trump media, as you referenced. The folks here in the room, these cameras, they have a choice. You're either informing the American people of the truth or you're not. Because I hear it from my people every day. Behind every headline you write, there's a helicopter crew in the air. And behind every news banner you write, there's a battalion on the move. And behind every fake news story, there's an F-35 pilot executing a dangerous mission. My message to the media is get it right. This actually isn't something new to me. I may be a young guy, Mr. President, but I'm not a rookie in this realm. In 2007, I helped lead the surge, the public fight for the Iraq surge. Stood and watched people stand in the Senate and declare the war is lost before it even started. Who was that? It was Harry Reid. That was the Democrats and the media working hand in glove. Back then it was 3 years into a war. Now we're 3 weeks into an operation. But see, unlike Iraq, this isn't a tie. This is not parody. This is not chaos. This is success, pure American success, on plan, and as the president said, ahead of pace. Over 10,000 enemy targets destroyed, over 140, I think now you're right, Mr. President, over 150 naval vessels sunk, underground facilities destroyed, their defense industrial base in shambles, and overnight, not only do they not have a Navy, Mr. President, they no longer have a Navy commander. IRGC's Navy commander was killed overnight in operation. So no Navy leader. Now that here's the thing about the media though, if President Trump had not acted, you'd be screaming, why not? And now that he has taken decisive action, you're asking, well, why did you? It's the same old tired playbook, TDS in your DNA. But the hardworking, God-fearing, patriotic Americans out there know better. And you alluded to this, President Obama, Mr. President. Here's a fact that you don't hear on your networks, that we know. Many of the Iranian military factories and bases that we're systematically destroying were paid for by the pallets of American cash that Barack Obama flew into Tehran under the Iran deal. You might call it an inconvenient truth. Iran took our money and turned it into weapons and bunkers and ammo. And now we're destroying those weapons, and you're righting, Mr. President, that grievous wrong. And make no mistake, we had to act. And our objectives are clear. No nukes, no Navy, and a complete dismantling of their missile program and defense industrial base. And as Marco pointed out, that mission, and the VP as well, has not changed since day one. Yet, 2 days ago, they shot 2 failed missiles on a target 4,000 kilometers away. For years, they told the world that their missiles could only range 2 kilometers. Surprise. Yet again, Iran lied. And to the world, I say London is 4,000 kilometers from Iran. Washington, D.C. is 3,300 kilometers from Venezuela, another country President Trump did something about that partnered for a long time with Iran. So you're telling us that Iran is not a threat to the world or to the U.S. President Trump knows better. And here's what success actually looks like right now. You mentioned it, Mr. President. A-10 Warthogs, if you know them, you love them, and Apache helicopter gunships are flying strike missions inside Iranian airspace and throughout the Strait of Hormuz at will. See, you only send these slow, low-flying, close air support platforms when the enemy has no meaningful air defenses left. Their presence is proof that Iran's air defenses are gone. Their command and control is shattered, their top leaders hiding in underground bunkers, while their mid-level commanders are being crushed in the field. The morale of their fighters plummeting, and we see that disconnect daily. They're privately admitting, as you said, Mr. President, very heavy losses. We know that. President Trump has given us a clear mission. Our capabilities are only going up and Iran's are plummeting. We are here to win, and we're full speed ahead. So, Steve, we appreciate your efforts. We pray for a deal, and we welcome a deal. And we have the ultimate deal maker to make it happen. But in the meantime, as I said yesterday, the Department of War will continue negotiating with bombs. War is negotiation by other means. And finally, I want to thank our incredible troops. Our pilots, crews, sailors, refuelers, air defenders, the absolute best of America, the real 1% of our country. This president, President Trump, has your back. And I know this cabinet prays for you every single day, and we ask the American people to do the same as they continue in this mission. God bless. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
President.
very much. It's great. I think before I ask Scott to say a couple of words, it would be great if people like the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois would say, please come in and stop the crime. A beautiful young lady was killed the other day, and the father was a very good friend of Dan Scavino, and he took it very hard. Dan took it very hard, like the father, friends. They grew up together, and it's a young lady whose life would be saved if we did what we did as an example in Washington, D.C., which is now a safe city. All the time, people come up to me in the building, people that work here, they say, thank you so much. I know immediately what they're talking about. They're able to walk to work. They walk to work. You all walk to work. Some of you were mugged. I know you told me stories. Some of you were mugged. One person in particular was viciously mugged in the group right here. It's not happening anymore. You have a safe city. Louisiana, the governor of Louisiana called me, can you help me with New Orleans? They just had the Mardi Gras. He said it was the safest Mardi Gras we've ever had. Sounds terrible to say. No murders. You know, it sounds like, who would say this? No murders. But they always had murders. They had a lot of crime during Mardi Gras. He said virtually no crime. We had the troops down there. Memphis, Tennessee, I just got back. We were there. Crime is down 75%. In a short period of time, we're there 5 months. We could do that for Chicago. We could do that for New York. We could do that for L.A. And we could do that for, frankly, San Francisco. I know they have a mayor who's trying very hard. He's a Democrat, but he's trying very hard. But we can do it much more effectively because he can't do what we do. He can't take people out from the city and bring them back to the country from where they came, where they were in prisons. They were allowed to go in prisons. They were drug dealers, the highest level drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders. We do things that they can't do. I had friends calling me up from San Francisco. Could you give him a chance? I said, absolutely. If you want, we'll give him a chance. And he's trying. He's doing okay, but we could do much better. We could make it a lot safer than it is. San Francisco, a great city, was a great city, could quickly become a great city again. But, you know, they're going very slowly. I tell my friends they're very substantial people. They're in a certain business where people have made a lot of money. I hope that lasts. But they have a tremendous potential. It was one of the greatest cities in the world. Now it's got a lot of crime. And the mayor is really trying. Again, a Democrat trying. And I spoke to him. He just wants to have a chance. And I said, we'll give you a chance. But we can solve it very quickly. This young lady would be around today if we were around, because we have nobody coming through our border. I mean, literally for 9 months, it's zero. It's hard to believe that number can be possible because millions of people came in through Biden. But nobody even tries. We don't have the caravans of thousands, 25, 30,000 people pouring into our border. They come up in caravans. We don't have caravans anymore. There's no such thing anymore. It's a name that I think I developed, but somebody developed it, but I think it was me. I thought it was inappropriate. And thousands of people would come up and just barge into our country, totally unchecked, totally unvetted. And this man came in, Dan, right? And he came in through the ridiculous open border of Biden. If we were there, the election was rigged, what are you going to do? Came back, big comeback. But if we were there, we wouldn't have had people coming through. It's amazing. You know, it's so easy now because everyone knows they're not getting through. We don't have any caravans. Once they know that, when it was easy to come through. When I heard that they had an open border policy, I said, boy, this is going to be, I couldn't believe it. But when it was actually, you know, it dawned on me because I had built 1,000 miles of wall and we were finishing up some and he didn't want to finish it up, Biden. I said, they really do want to have an open border. And we got it finished. But that young lady would be alive today. And she'd be alive for another reason, because we would have the National Guard in Chicago.
and in New York and in other places, and they love doing it. It's like training, to be honest. It's actually training. I never want to take them out of D.C. I mean, maybe somebody later on will do it, but I never want to take. You know, the people, they look, they say, we feel so good, we feel so safe. We see these beautiful, strong people, and they're so nice. They help, they open the doors for people. They carry bags. They pick up paper when they see paper on the ground. I looked at D.C. last night. I drove to make a speech, and I drove through, and I said, take me this way, take me that way. The city's clean. The fences are down. You don't have homeless all over your parks. I mean, we had parks. There was no room for anything else other than homeless. It's all clean and nice. It's good, and it'll be even more beautiful in a year from now. And we have some projects that are great. This ballroom is going to be something that's so beautiful for the city, so desperately needed by presidents. I mean, now it's no secret the military wanted it more than anybody. It was supposed to be secret, but it became unsecret because of people that are really unpatriotic saying things. But doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's going to be great. We're building an arc, a triumphal arc, which will be incredible for the city. Incredible. We're fixing up what was the Kennedy Center. I was honored when the board changed the name a little bit. Actually, it shows that the Republican and the Democrats, they work together. It's really something we work together. So I think it's a great symbol, actually. But we're doing a lot of work. That building's ready to fall down. It's in terrible shape. We're closing it. We're going to open it with a bang in less than 2 years. It'll come in under budget, ahead of schedule. That's what I do. It won't be like the Federal Reserve that's costing $4 billion or something thereabouts. Think of it, $4 billion. You know, it's amazing. I said to the group before, I said, everything I do, I get sued. I build under budget, ahead of schedule. I get sued over a ballroom that's going to be the most beautiful ballroom in the country, so desperately needed. You won't have to have tents sitting on the wet White House lawn. If it rains, you get wiped out, to honor the president of China or the president of France or the president of somewhere. You could have the greatest. We get sued by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They don't know what they're doing. Then I just found out we got sued by that group and another group, I guess, on the fixing up of again, I'll use the old name, Kennedy Center, because they're not fixing up Trump Kennedy. It's going to be beautiful when you add the name Trump. But we got sued, and all I'm doing is fixing it up. We're fixing broken marble. We're putting on a roof because it leaks like a sieve. We're fixing steel that's broken. It's the same building, same exact building. We're fixing it. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be so beautiful and safe. It's actually unsafe. You had some of those columns on the outside that were painted a fake gold. Now we painted them a beautiful white color, beautiful cream white. It's beautiful. Everyone said it's so much more beautiful now. Instead of a cheap, you can't imitate gold. See, I'm a gold person. It's all real stuff. You can't imitate it. Someday they'll discover a paint that will look like gold, and the guy's going to be the richest man in the world. But you can't imitate real gold. It just doesn't. That's 24 karat, which is what this building deserves. But think of it. I get sued because I'm fixing up the Trump Kennedy Center. We're going to make it gorgeous and safe. We're fixing new windows, new this, but just all fix up. I got sued by preservationists. But you know who they didn't sue? The man that took this beautiful Federal Reserve building. That's small, much smaller than the hotel I built. I built the Waldorf Astoria Hotel down the road, and it was a beautiful job for $201 million. It's bigger, I think, than the Federal Reserve building, and it's got rooms and bathrooms, and it's not like just an open office space, which is much cheaper to build. Think of this. I hear he's going to be over $4 billion for a little building. He doesn't get sued by anybody but me. I sue because it's either somebody's very crooked, which has to be, because what happened to all that money? You can't sue. I would have done that building for $25 million. It's going to cost maybe $4 billion, and we have a great new person coming in to take over the Fed. And Kevin may not ever have an office. Because I don't know if they're going to be able to build. I passed that building the other day. It's a see-through. You know what see-through means? There's no walls up. And they're going to spend. But the National Trust for Historic Preservation, which is a joke, by the way, they didn't sue that building. They didn't sue anybody. But they sued me, and I build. And by the way, my buildings, it's all donations. Rich people and people are putting up the money. 0 taxpayer dollars. Is that right, Scott? 0 taxpayer dollars. This stuff is all done for free, and I get sued. This can only happen to Trump. But they don't sue the guy whose interest rates are too high. That's why we call him Too Late. His name is Jerome Powell. We call him Jerome Too Late Powell. And done a terrible job. He suffers from Trump derangement syndrome, as he probably should, because I hit him pretty hard. But so I don't blame him. But they don't sue a man who has taken this gorgeous building, ripped it down from the inside, taking ceilings that are as beautiful as you've ever seen, taking the ceilings down instead of leaving them, taking walls down that were 2 feet thick of solid concrete and plaster, replacing them with 6-inch walls with no insulation. I said, let me ask you, are you going to put insulation in? No, it's not in the budget. Oh. Insulation costs $5. Now you're going to hear the guy next door. If he's next door to me, I'll be able to hear his military plan. I'll know exactly. If Lutnick is in there, I'll say, oh, I know exactly what Lutnick's got planned. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. They've ripped this gorgeous building apart, and you can never build it again. I could, but it costs a lot of money. But a normal person can never build. So you're going to have crummy little walls, a flat little ceiling eventually, but right now you don't have anything. And nobody sues this guy. And then when Jeanine Pirro, working with Pam and others, has the courage to sue to find out what happened to maybe $4 billion and a building that may never be occupied by Kevin Warsh. He may never get there. We're going to have to find him some space in the White House. We'll put him in the basement of the ballroom. But when, now think of it, when Jeanine Pirro and Pam and the group, when they bring a suit, it's like, oh, this terrible thing. And then we have a judge that attacks us. So we've got to get our priorities straight, you know. It's a very sad thing that's happened with the Fed. And then just one other thing very quickly, you have Gavin Newsom in California Railroad. That's 100 times over budget. It's out of control. It was supposed to go from the middle of San Francisco to the middle of LA. Well, now it stops way short of both. It now goes into areas that nobody ever heard of. It's billions and billions of dollars over budget, years and years, maybe decades late. And that's why we have a country that has a lot of problems, you know. We have incompetent people. It's all people. Think of this, Federal Reserve, I would have had that building done for $25 million. I would have, if I did it, it was up to, somebody else would have done it for more. So maybe 50. But you could have done that building, if it was properly done and planned, you would have done that building for, I would have done it for $25 million, and it would be better. It would be better. See this pen right here? This pen is an interesting example. It's the same thing. So this pen is very inexpensive, but it writes well. I like it. But I can't have the pen the way it was. You know what it is. I don't want to give them too much publicity, but they do treat me well. Sharpie. So I came here, and they have $1,000 pens. And you know, you hand pens out, you're signing, and you hand them out, you're handing them to all these people. Sometimes you have 30, 40 people. And they were $1,000 a piece. Beautiful pen, ballpoint. 1,000, it was gold, silver, gorgeous. But I'm handing out to kids that don't even know what they are. What is this, Mommy? It's kids. They're getting a pen for $1,000. They have no idea what it is. And I feel guilty because I'm like, you know, I'm by nature, I don't, you know, it's the government. I love the government like I love myself economically. I want to save money. So I'm saying, this is crazy. And it had another problem. They didn't write well. So I take it out. And I signed, and there's no ink. And I got all you people looking, and you're saying, there must be something wrong with Trump. And I'm signing, and there's no ink in the pen, and it costs $1,000. This one, I called the guy. I said, I'd like to use your pen, but I can't have a gray thing with a big S on it saying Sharpie. As I'm signing a $1 trillion airplane contract to buy brand new fighter jets, brand new B-2 bombers, of which we just ordered plenty. I can't do that with the press. Use your pen, but I like the pen the best, but I'll sign it. I could do like Biden did, you know? Give it to somebody else to sign, or an auto pen. Or maybe sign it separately in another room, but I can't use your pen. He said, well, I can make it nicer. I said, what can you do? He said, I'll paint it black. I said, that's nice. And I can even paint the White House on it, sir, if you like, in gold. Almost real gold, not bad. And I can even do your signature, sir. And by the way, this was not staged. I just saw the pen sitting there, and I thought of this as an example of how $25 million spent by me at the Federal Reserve Building would be a better job than $4 billion that they're spending. And you know, one of the things that Kevin Walsh told me, he said they ripped down the nicest building. I don't know what building they're talking about. They ripped down a building, Scott, right? Kevin Walsh said it's the most beautiful building in Washington. He said the most beautiful space. They ripped it down. Why did they do that? I don't know. Do you know what he's talking about? Is it true?
Yes, sir.
They ripped it down. We have a moron at the Fed. Who wouldn't be lowering interest rates right now? But I want to thank Jeanine Pirro and Pam and her group for having the courage to bring this suit. And I believe that the contractor on that job is probably one of the richest men in the country right now. I believe that it's not possible to spend that kind of money. $3 billion, $4 billion, nobody knows, nobody has any idea what it is. But it's over $3 billion, and it's probably going to be over $4 billion by the time they finish. And it may never get finished. Unless I take it over, I'll get it finished. But it can never be what it was. It's never going to have those beautiful ceilings. It's never going to have those incredible walls. The walls were 1.5 feet thick of solid masonry. They ripped them down for no reason. And I just gave you the story. And just to finish on this one, so I told that story to somebody who said, yeah, but it's not the same thing. I said, you're right. This one is better. It writes. So the guy said to me, you don't have to pay me, sir. I'll give them to you for nothing. I said, no, I don't want that. Let me pay you. I want to pay you. No, sir, you don't have to. You're the President of the United States. He was shocked. The head of Sharpie gets a call. I don't even know who the hell he is. He said, is this really the President? He said, no, you don't have to pay me, sir. This is such an honor. I said, nope, I want to pay you. And he said, what would you like to pay? I said, how about $5 a pen? He said, that's all right, whatever the hell we agreed to. Peanuts. As opposed to 1,000. And these were $1,000 pens. And we were giving them out. Sometimes, you know, you were there for signings. I'd have 30, 40 people standing behind me. I'd give out 40 pens to people. Then somebody would say, could I have a couple extra? This way I go like this. Here, you want 5? Here, I'll take 5. But the bottom line is, they're better pens. It's a business story. So for $5, could be 0, but for $5, I get a much better pen than for $1,000. And I can hand them out. And actually, they become hot as a pistol. So what can I tell you? Yeah. With that, could I give it to, please, a man who's done a great job at Treasury, Scott? Good luck, Scott.
Well, sir, as always, you're a tough act to follow, but that is very illustrative. Your economic leadership has made our military mission possible. Mr. President, national security, as you always say, is economic security. Your leadership has shown the American people that there is no prosperity without security. That our mighty military on one side, but the U.S. economic strength is fighting off this evil regime. The Iranians believe they are fighting a two-front war. It is the military war that our great warriors are prosecuting, but on the other side, they are trying to take control of the global economy through a choke point that we believe does not exist and that we will overcome. Your historic operation at Epic Fury seized a generational opportunity to demolish a regime that has coordinated over 4 decades of global terror and claimed thousands of American lives. Many people, especially the Democrats, underestimate the will of the American people for short-term volatility for 50 years of safety that we are going to have on the other side of this. And I believe energy prices will be lower, inflation will be lower before we had the appearance of security, which is not real security. Now, the American people and the world will have absolute security. Through your maximum pressure campaign, Treasury has worked to uncover all financial lifelines to the regime and cut them off. You gave that order last March. This was not something that happened overnight. This is something that has been contemplated for almost a year. The Iranian financial system collapsed in December. We have systematically weakened Iran's ability to fund operations and procure weapons, and that required months of preparations. Threats to American national security have no place in the global economic system. The oil market is well supplied. We have taken actions to ensure oil supplies stranded at sea are made available to the global market. Your bold actions like the Development Finance Corporation's Maritime Reinsurance Program in conjunction with Central Command will soon provide shippers through the Gulf region with a level of security we have never seen before. Mr. President, we are starting to see more and more movement in and out of the Gulf today, and this is more than yesterday, and this is the beginning. I am confident that shipping traffic will continue to increase on a daily basis even before we secure the straits. Turning to the home front, the U.S. economy remains strong. We had a strong economy thanks to you. We are the best insulated in the world thanks to your energy efforts in term 1 and term 2. The U.S. is an energy superpower. American workers' purchasing power is finally being restored. The latest figures indicate robust real compensation increases. We are starting to see the working family tax cuts benefits bearing fruit this tax season. 44% of tax returns have claimed at least one of your signature policies: no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, deductibility of auto loans. The average tax refund is up more than 10% for working Americans. The economy you vitalized through your pro-growth policies is well positioned to withstand these temporary disruptions. The United States dollar has reasserted itself as a safe haven asset. The US dollar has appreciated since the hostilities began because everyone knows, thanks to your efforts, the US economy is the best position in the world and capital is flowing in. Efforts to reprioritize economic security are ensuring the United States remains secure, resilient, and prepared for the challenges ahead. As we approach the 250th anniversary, America will never be safer and more secure militarily and economically. Thank you.
I just want to ask you a question. Is this guy Central Casting? I'm looking at him. I'm in Treasury. He might not be so good for war. I don't know. No, I'm looking pretty good too. I'm looking at this guy. He's Central Casting. Even the glasses are perfect. Where do you get those glasses? I think I'm going to get glasses like that. That's beautiful. Great job. That's really good. No, he's done a great job, and you all have. Proud of you all. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Mr. President, are you going to go in for the uranium? Like, how do you secure Iran? And
let's assume I was or I wasn't. Why would I ever answer a question?
Can you accomplish
what kind of a question? Am I going to go in for the? Oh yeah, I'm going in. We're going in tomorrow at 3 o'clock. How could you possibly ask a question like that and expect an answer? I don't know, but I don't know. I think you're a friendly person too. It's just such a ridiculous question.
Mr. President,
please.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's been a report that potentially the U.S. is looking at diverting some munitions, air defenses that were meant for Ukraine to the Middle East. Is there any accuracy to that? Is that something you're considering?
Well, I'd have to ask me, but we do that all the time. You know, we have tremendous amounts of ammunition. We have them in other countries, like in Germany and all over Europe. We have, you know, we're packed. And sometimes we take from one and we use for another. We helped Ukraine, which Biden started, and he gave $350 billion away, way too much. And we sell it now to NATO. We sell it to NATO, and they probably give it to Ukraine, mostly, I think. They give it to Ukraine, but we get paid for everything that we give. We don't give anything anymore. It's a tough situation, that whole Ukraine situation, very, very tough. We're working very hard on getting that one solved. It doesn't have any impact on us, virtually nothing. In fact, if anything, I mean, we sell a lot of equipment for that unfortunate war. 25,000 people died last month, 25,000, mostly soldiers. Some in the towns, but for the most part soldiers. They're dying. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's a terrible situation, and hopefully that's going to get settled. You know, I settled 8 wars. And many of them, I think, were more difficult than this one. In theory, they were more difficult, but there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. Tremendous hatred. I've seen it before, but I've never seen it maybe to this extent. And I think that's calming down a little bit, and I think we have a chance of getting it done. But it doesn't affect us. Thousands of miles away. That's why when I heard the head of Germany say, this is not our war, about Iran, I said, well, Ukraine's not our war. We helped, but Ukraine's not our war. I thought it was a very inappropriate statement to make, but he made it. You can't erase it, but he felt that way. I said, well, you know, Ukraine's not our war, and it's not, but I would like to see all those young people stop being killed. I mean, they're being killed. It's like a slaughterhouse. What's happening there is horrible. 25,000 on average. 2 months ago, it was 31,000 people died in 1 month, Marco, right? I said, it's getting crazy. It's getting worse. Think of it, 31,000 soldiers, both Russian and Ukraine, died 2 months ago, 25,000 last month. And if I can solve that, it would be a great honor to do it. I wish it could have gone faster. I solved other ones in 1 day that have been going for 32 years. We stopped one that was starting. It was already started. India and Pakistan, and the Prime Minister of Pakistan, a very fine gentleman, said President Trump solved something that was going to cost 10 million lives. That was going to cost a lot of lives, 2 nuclear nations. And those were complicated, but we got them done quickly. This one is, it's a shame. And the only reason I'm doing it, frankly, is because I want to stop death. I want to stop the death from happening. I think I'm going to go with a man that I've missed, Brian. I haven't seen you in a long time. I miss you. He's been in a very strange location. I don't know. He's had a strange thing happen. But anyway, go ahead, Brian.
Well, good to see you too. Actually, good to see the new card cabinet doing one. Good to see you too. You talked about gas prices coming down.
Yeah.
Obviously, they will. Would you ever consider suspending the federal gas tax in order to kind of temporarily alleviate some?
Well, some people should do that. As an example, in California, every time prices go down, his prices go up because the gas tax is bigger than the tax itself, bigger than the product itself. It hasn't. I mean, we've thought about it, I guess, but honestly, when I did this, I knew it was going to be a little bit. We had the greatest economy ever. We had the greatest stock market in history. I said, we're going to take a little bit of a hit, a short-term hit. It's going to end up going much higher than it was, in my opinion. I said we're going to have a great stock market. Nobody thought we could get to 50,000 or 7,000 in the respective indices. Nobody thought that was going to happen, but it did in the first year. They said it couldn't happen in 4 years, that you wouldn't hit 50 in 4 years, but you could maybe get close. We hit it in the first year. And I said, this is a good time to solve a problem that you had to solve. And that's what I did. But the gas tax, people have talked about it. it's something we have in our pocket if we think it's necessary.
And if I can follow real quickly, you just recently took off, Secretary Duffy, 17,000 truckers off the road that quite frankly could not speak English, which is a safety issue.
Yeah.
Could we ever extend that to Uber drivers, Lyft drivers, cab drivers, for someone who takes a lot of Ubers? A lot of my drivers can't speak
Oh, well, that's not good. I didn't like that. Go ahead, Chuck.
So that's a really good point. The problem is that our states are the ones that issue these licenses. So with commercial driver's licenses, we do have some federal control. But again, we have thousands of people who can't speak the language, long-standing rule, and it's a safety issue, right? If you can't understand road signs, if you can't communicate with law enforcement when you're pulled over and communicate what's on your rig, huge problem. But the last administration, Mr. President, they let truck driving schools self-certify that they were qualified to train truck drivers. And so this is like the Leering Center. So you pay $800 and you get a certificate that you passed a CDL driving school, and again, they have no skills. They don't have the knowledge, and they don't have the skills. They haven't gone through any of the testing. And then they get licenses, and they're killing Americans on our roads. So it's remarkable, the rot that the last administration allowed to take place. We are ending that, and I need partnership with our states. Even California started to come on board. Even Gavin has started to play ball with us, which is surprising. Not all the way, a little bit of ball.
Mr. President,
You know, it's interesting because I just saw something that the nursing home business and the daycare centers in particular, they went out and inspected them in Minnesota, and they didn't exist. They're knocking on the door. He happens to be a young man, Nick, nice young man. He's done a very good job. They're knocking on doors. It's like homes, and they're getting hundreds of thousands of that. They didn't exist, and in California it's worse. It's even worse. And I spoke with Russell Vogt. I said, Russell, don't send them any money. He said, but we have a court order that we have to. Can you believe it? A judge. The judges are really hurting this country. Our judges, Justice Roberts doesn't like when I say it, but the judges are really hurting this country. And frankly, the justices, the Supreme Court, has really hurt our country too.
Mr. President, do you have a new deadline, given that there are some talks now? Do you have a new deadline before taking?
No, I'll announce it. I mean, right now, you're talking about a deadline for doing some pretty big damage, even bigger than we've done. We'll see. Look, we have very substantial talks going on with respect to Iran, with the right people. You know, I told you about a present, right? Steve, can I reveal the present? You can do anything you want, sir. They said to show you the fact that we're real and solid and we're there. We're going to let you have 8 boats of oil, 8 boats, 8 big boats of oil. This was 2 days ago. And they'll sail up tomorrow. That was 3 days ago. And I didn't think much about it. And then I watched the news, and they said, a very good anchor, actually, happened to be Fox. But I watched it, and he said, something's unusual happening. There are 8 boats that are going right up the middle of the Hormuz Strait. 8 big tankers are going loaded up with oil right through. And I said, well, I guess they were right, and they were real. And I think they were Pakistani flagged. Yes. And I said, well, I guess we're dealing with the right people. And actually, they then apologized for something they said, and they said, we're going to send 2 more boats. And it ended up being 10 boats. All right. I hope I haven't screwed up your negotiations, but I thought it was appropriate to say, because I did taunt you the other day by saying they're going to give us a present.
There were 2 illegal immigrants who were arrested at San Francisco airport for ignoring deportation orders. At the same time, as you highlighted, really great reception from American travelers for ICE agents. Is there a PR aspect of this that can allow future deportations to go on with less protesting, less outrage?
Yeah, it's amazing, because by putting ICE there, Look, the press was very unfair to ICE. So was everyone else. These are great American patriots. They have a tough job. They have to find murderers and take them out of our country. I wouldn't want to do it. You wouldn't want to do it. Most people wouldn't want to do it. They do it. And, 11,888 murderers. And that's murderers. That's not drug dealers. That's not lots of other things. It's not people from mental institutions. Entire jail populations were released from major countries and let into our country through the open border. And ICE has done an amazing job. I wouldn't want that job. It's a tough job, dangerous job. So what happens is, by putting them at the airport, and I did say, do me a favor, take off your masks, and they did. For that, not for when they're looking for some, cold-blooded killers and they're in the net, but for that, and they did. They took them off. And the passengers, I see the interviews of people, they're saying, these are nice people. One person said, he's a very strong man, but he's a nice guy. He grabbed my bag. He helped a woman with a bag that she couldn't lift. And I'll tell you, I don't want to use the word rehab because there was nothing to rehab, but rehab from the press, because the press is so tough on him. And these crooks in Minnesota, these crooked politicians and dirty cops. They're dirty cops, they're dirty politicians. Waltz is a dirty, crooked politician. The Attorney General is a crooked guy. He's no investigations, and I hope JD's going to do a great job. He's in charge of it now with somebody who's very talented. But I think it's easy stuff. They say $19 billion, think of it, is missing. $19 billion. If we would solve half of the fraud problem, Pam, in this country, we would have more than a balanced budget. We'd have a surplus. And in the case of Minnesota, it's very Somalia-oriented. Think of it. These people come from a crooked country, disgusting country, one of the worst countries in the world. Acknowledged to be one of the worst countries in the world. Some people say it's the worst. They have no money, they have nothing. They come to our country, low IQs, and they rob us blind. Stupid people. And they rob us blind because we have crooked politicians and we have dirty cops. The Attorney General's a dirty cop. It's my opinion. It's only my opinion. And something should be done about him. Let's see what kind of a job you can do.
Yesterday you said that you hate mail-in ballots.
Excuse me?
Should Iran be able to charge a toll for the Strait of Hormuz? They're charging some vessels to go through.
Oh, yeah. Well, should they be able to? They shouldn't be able to, but they're doing it a little bit. I don't know. Look, their capability is a lot less than it was 2 weeks ago. And with every week and every day, frankly, it gets less and less. All I can tell you is they're begging to make a deal. So let's see what happens. We may make a deal. Tell me about mail-in ballots. Go ahead. You mean I used a mail-in ballot? You probably said, yeah, I did. You know what? Because I'm president of the United States, and because of the fact that I'm president of the United States, I did a mail-in ballot for elections that took place in Florida, because I felt I should be here instead of being in the beautiful sunshine taking.
You were in Palm Beach, sir, the last few weekends.
That's right, and I decided that I was going to vote by mail-in ballot because I couldn't be there, because I had a lot of different things. But we have exceptions for mail-in ballots. You do know that, right? So if you're away, we have an exception. If you're in the military, we have an exception. If you're on a business trip, we have an exception. If you're disabled, we have an exception. And if you're ill, if you're not feeling good, whatever. So I was away, mostly in Washington, D.C., so I used a mail-in ballot. But I appreciate the question because I know it was so well-meaning. Yeah.
Mr. President, I actually just looked up the company that owns Sharpie, and they stock turned positive after you mentioned it. Question on our end.
By the way, they deserve it.
Yeah, question on
it's a good product.
So you gave a 5-day deadline. With oil tankers going through the Strait of Hormuz, is that a condition to move that 5-day deadline?
Well, we don't want anything impeded. We want ships to go through. We don't know that they've dropped any mines, by the way, because we blew up all their mine droppers, right? We blew up every one of them. They're going to have to take them out on a rowboat or something. I don't know how the hell they get out there, but we don't really know. You might speak to it. We don't know. There could be a few of them out there, but that's a lot. If you have $1 billion ship and you get hit by a mine, it's not the greatest thing in the world. So if you think, the problem with that, that's not like you've decimated the military. If you think there may be a mine, that's a bad thought, and it stops things up. How are we doing in that regard, Peter?
Mr. President, you're right. We have so heavily degraded their coastal defense capabilities and their naval capabilities that any strategic or operational attempts to do those types of things are extremely limited. And we continue to move over the top of that. Now, whether Iran makes a wise choice or not to try to execute that is part of how this deal comes together. But with every passing day, the military pressure that we're putting on them lessens their ability to really hold that militarily at issue.
I mean, the problem with the issue of the Hormuz Straits is this: we've decimated them as a military. No Air Force, no Navy, very few rockets left. We blew up so many. Hard to manufacture them. Same thing with drones. The leadership is gone. The problem with the Straits is this: let's say we do a great job. We say we got 99%. 1% is unacceptable, because 1% is a missile going into the hull of a ship that cost $1 billion, right? So 1% is we can't. If we do a 99% decimation, that's no good. So it's really, a little bit. But I have a feeling it's going to clean up pretty quickly. I can just say this: they want to make, and I probably hurt our little negotiation. It gives them a little impetus to say, well, I wish you didn't say that. But they said yesterday that we weren't negotiating with them, and now they admit that we were negotiating with them. So they want to make a deal. The reason they want to make a deal is they have been just beat to shit.
So are you thinking of taking control of Iran's oil?
It's an option. I mean, I wouldn't talk about it, but it's an option.
Is that something you thought about?
Well, in Venezuela, we've done very well working with Venezuela, certainly. And we've taken in billions and billions of dollars. And by the way, Venezuela is doing better right now than they've ever done in the history of their country. And it's sort of like a joint venture. But the United States has made a lot of money, Marco, right? With it. Do you want to talk about that for a second?
About Venezuela?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Venezuela in the first 2 months of this year generated more revenue from oil sales than they had most of all of last year. But the money's not being stolen anymore. And it's being held in a U.S. Treasury blocked account. And to the extent it's flowing to the Venezuelan government, it's going to help people, like fund hospitals, pay teachers. It's not
and we get
stolen.
a lot of it, and they got more than they have in many years. Think of it. We get a lot of it. We have a deal. We get a lot of it. We had 100 million, think of this, 100 million barrels we took in the first 2 weeks. 100 million barrels. That's a lot of oil. It's a lot of ships. And we got some, and they got some. We paid for the ships. A lot of money left over. And Venezuela has done better now with us. Call it a partner, call it whatever you want. We've made a lot of money, and they've made a lot of money. We've paid for the cost of that military hit many, many times over. And we've only just started. Our relationship with Venezuela has been amazing. The people, actually, I'm the highest polling person. And in other words, after the presidency, I think I may go to Venezuela and run for president against Elsie. I may run against Elsie. It's an option. No, they like me in Venezuela, but it's an option for me. It's a wonderful option. Yes.
There's some reports that Gulf allies are concerned about winding down the war too soon and potentially leaving Iran.
Well, they'd probably like us to stay, but
the concern
if we don't stay, look, it's a beautiful thing about airplanes that go 2,000 miles an hour is you can get back there very quickly. If we don't stay, we're going to be protecting them. We know, they've been very good. Hey, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, in particular, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, the three of them, Kuwait, Bahrain, they've been 100%. Now, in all fairness, they could have gone the other way. They were surprisingly missiled. They were shot at. Nobody ever thought they'd be shot at. UAE had 1,400 missiles aimed at them. Fortunately, they had the greatest anti-missile weapon in history, called the Patriot. Almost every single missile was shot down. We had an incident recently where 101 missiles were shot at a certain thing that we own. It's very valuable. 101 missiles going 2,000 miles an hour. Out of the 101 missiles, every single one of them was shot down in midair and fell into the ocean. It's amazing technology. There's nobody has equipment like we have.
Iran still has that enriched uranium. Is it even possible?
Well, you're going to have to see, but I think we're in just very good shape. We're roaming. You know what we're doing? You know the word roaming free? We're over their skies with the most beautiful planes you've ever seen. Roaming free, there's not a damn thing they can do about it. And it would be nice if, like the fake news New York Times, which writes so fake, and the Wall Street Journal is terrible, terrible. I mean, I read a story today that I'm desperate to make a deal. If I was desperate, he'd be the first to know. Pete, let's get the hell out of there. I'm the opposite of desperate. I don't care. I want to know. In fact, we have other targets we want to hit before we leave. We're hitting them on a daily basis. No, I don't talk about you. I can't talk about specifics. A lot of people said that wouldn't matter. Maybe it does matter. Who knows? But I wouldn't talk. It's like the question this young lady asked. Sorry about I embarrassed her. I don't want to embarrass you because I think I think she's a friendly reporter, so I'm sorry. But I can't say what we're going to do because if I did, I wouldn't be sitting here for long. They'd probably, what is it called, the 25th Amendment? They'd institute the 25th Amendment, which they didn't do with Biden, which is shocking.
The question is safe enough to leave the region because Steve said that they've got enough uranium to make 11 bombs. That's a very scary thing. So
well, it's again, I can't talk to you about that. You're asking me a question. You're essentially saying, will I go in and do something? I can't talk to you about that.
Mr. President, you're looking at a coalition of ships to help, warships to help protect tankers. How close are you to getting that coalition?
Well, we have a coalition for them, but they should have been up here a long time ago. And they're affected. The amazing thing is we don't need the Hormuz Strait. We don't need it. We don't need it at all. We have so much oil. Our country is not affected by this. We have twice the amount of oil as Saudi Arabia or Russia, and soon it'll be 3 times the amount. Chris, do you want to speak to that for a second?
And that's correct. Our total oil production is greater than Saudi Arabia's plus Russia, and more than we consume in the United States. So we're the largest.
Pretty good.
Pretty
you know what they call it? Drill, baby, drill. Yes.
Mr. President,
anything else you want to say?
Well, and same thing for natural gas. We before your first term, we were the largest exporter of natural gas in the world. Today, we're just by far the largest. I mean, we're the largest importer. Now we're by far the largest exporter, and it's growing rapidly this year. New facilities are coming online. New production's ramping up.
We're doing an amazing job. We get a lot of help from that man right over there. He's getting approvals done quickly and very environmental. He's an environmentalist, actually. He does a great job, but he gives you a fast approval or rejection. Do you have anything to say?
Well, back on Venezuela, where Chris and I have both had a chance to be there, I literally think they're going to put a statue to President Trump. And it's not a political statement, it's an actual thing.
So. That would be a great honor.
No, because it's like they view President Trump like Simon Bolivar. He's the liberator of a country, and this is a country where they love American baseball. You look on the street, they're wearing NBA jerseys, and Delcy and her team working with us, getting back. Chris and I both experienced it was the first time in Venezuelan history that they had the free press allowed to come on to essentially where the White House, the Palacio Miraflores. And it was an emotional thing for people that had been for 20 years had never had a chance to be there. So whether it's and then production, it's showing up in production. The American companies that are coming back, most of those American companies have many American Venezuelan team members. One company in Houston's got 600 Venezuelan Americans that know more about reviving that industry. So their GDP is it 1/4 of what it was before? They want to get back. They remember what it was. Their production on oil production is climbing towards 50% increase just in the 3 months we've been here. That flows to American refineries on the Gulf Coast, lowering the price of gas in America. So it's a
forget that. When are they going to do the statue? The hell with
you. You've been really honest about how disappointed you are in Sakir Starmer, particularly in relation to Iran. So I'm curious about your phone calls with him, how easy they might be. And also, were you surprised by
Are we talking about Starmer?
Yes. Are you surprised by how weak
I think he's a lovely man. I do. I think he's a lovely man. But I think he did something that was shocking. he didn't want to help us. And maybe in particular that country, we were the longest bond, the longest ally. Australia too. Australia was not great. I was a little surprised by Australia. I wouldn't say anybody was great other than the 5 countries in the Middle East. We never really had very much support. We spend trillions of dollars supporting countries, and this is Little League. This isn't the big league deal. This is sort of Little League pool for us. This was look, we decimated them in a period of a week. In the first week it was over. In the first few days it was over. I think the Navy took us 3 days to essentially annihilate it. They weren't there. So if there's ever a big one, which I hope there's not, but if there's ever a big one, I don't think they're going to be there. And that's not fair. And we have to remember that as a country, because we spend trillions of dollars protecting Europe, protecting the countries of NATO. They weren't there for us. For small time. This is small time. You know what? Venezuela is a big deal, but it's not the big one. They weren't there. So what makes you think they'd be there if we needed them for something? And your prime minister was not there, as you know. He was there after we won. He said, we'd like to send some ships. I said, we already won. We don't need them anymore.
But can you explain why he was reluctant to help?
Why he what?
Why he was reluctant to help with Iran?
He didn't have to. I didn't ask him. I just said, just tell me no. I mean, we're always going to be there, or at least we were. I don't know about anymore, to be honest with you. I have to be honest. We were always there when they needed help. We always would have been there when they needed help. I mean, think of it. We're there to protect Europe from Russia. In theory, it doesn't affect us. We have an ocean, big, fat, beautiful ocean. But we're there to protect NATO, to protect them from Russia. But they're not there to protect us. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. I tell you, a lot of people were big NATO people. I was never big. I was okay. I got them to pay 5%. By the way, they haven't paid it yet. You know that. I got them to pay 5% from 2% to 5%. They didn't pay it yet. I got them to pay up to 2% because they weren't paying the 2%. Then I got them to pay 5%, which they should be at. And we had a lot of, oh, that was great. Oh, only Trump could do it. But the problem is they haven't paid. Because if you look at the numbers, they haven't paid yet. So we were there for them, but they were not there for us. Did we need them? No. I never thought we needed them. I was more doing a test. I said, I really would love to have you come up. Bring your boats. You can sail through the beautiful Hormuz Straits, and you can protect people that are being shot at. They didn't do it. And that's small potatoes. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, does it affect the state visit with the King that you're going to have in April? Are you looking forward to that?
With the King?
With the King coming here?
No, he's a friend of mine. He's a great gentleman. As you know, he honored me and our country. He really honored our country. But we had an amazing time. I've known him as Prince Charles. I know him as King Charles. I'm proud of him. He's fighting a tough battle. He's tough. I think he's a fantastic. It has nothing to do with that. It's different. But he's gonna be here very soon, as you know. We're gonna have a state dinner. It's gonna be great. But I was very disappointed when the Prime Minister said, I won't be able to. It started with the island that the indigenous have claimed away from your country. And for some reason, you went for it. And all of a sudden, indigenous people that never saw the place, they never saw it. He was afraid that we would do something to insult, because he's a liberal. That's the way they think. And when we needed the island to land that beautiful B-2 bomber, we were told we can't use it. We'd have to fly back to Missouri, which is a 17-hour flight, as opposed to a couple of hours. And I said, you gotta be kidding. Not good. They made a big mistake.
Mr. President, is the Friday deadline for Iran, is that pushed back now, or, and if not?
I don't know yet. I don't know. Mr. Witkoff and JD and Jared will tell me whether or not they think it's going along. And if it's not going along, maybe not. And we have a lot of time. You know what? It's a day. in Trump time, a day, you know what it is? That's an eternity. Say it, what?
European Parliament just passed a major deportation plan. Some of the tenets of it are that member states can deport rejected asylum seekers to third countries regardless of whether they have a connection to it. It allows for detention periods of up to 2 years and also offshore return hubs or detention centers similar to our.
Who did this? Which country?
European Parliament, and the vote was not close. It was 389 in
Good.
favor to 208 against.
I'd vote.
So
I'd vote with them. Yeah.
Europe is where you are now. Do you think that will move the needle with Democrats?
I don't care about the Democrats. The Democrats hate our country. The Democrats are in chaos right now, and they have no common sense. You know, they have one quality that's amazing. They stick together. And it's harder because they stick together in a ridiculous policy like men playing in women's sports, open borders for everybody, including murderers and anybody else that want it. We're open to you. Come in, murderers. You know why they do that? They do that for a couple of reasons, but they do it for votes because they think they're going to vote for the Democrats. Even though I did great with the Hispanic vote, tremendous with the Hispanic vote. You know, I turned that whole thing around. The Hispanics like me and I like them. And you know, it's interesting with Hispanics. When I built the wall, everybody said, oh, that's going to ruin us for the Hispanic. It was just the opposite. They know all about immigration and they know all about death and crime, and they're smart people and they have common sense. They wanted to be protected from the people that were coming into our country. So, you know, I won the election with a very tremendous Hispanic vote, and I think it's higher now than it was then. So, we're a party of common sense. The Democrats are a party of insanity. They're a party that will destroy our country. If I didn't win this election, I believe our country would have been destroyed by now. 1 year, that's all it would have taken. If you had Kamala or Sleepy Joe, either one, it wouldn't have mattered. They're the same thing. Two sleepy people, two stupid people. I believe, and by the way, Gavin Newsom, who is one of the candidates, I believe he took himself out of the running when he says he suffers from mental disability. And a reporter said it was terrible that I talked that way about somebody with mental disability. I said, I have no problem with it, but I don't want a person with mental disability to be my president. I mean, you don't want to have a person with mental disability being your president. And Gavin Newsom said that he can't read a speech. He can't do almost anything. And then he said he's as dumb as all the people in the room. And he got accused of being a racist, which was an amazing set. I thought it was the worst interview I've ever seen anybody give. He's actually a very stupid person. So I believe he's out of the running. I think that statement, that interview, he admitted that he's a stupid person. I don't want a stupid person being president. You know, I'll say it right now. I say it because no press never reports it. I'm the only president that ever took a cognitive test. I took it 3 times. It's actually a very hard test for a lot of people. It wasn't hard for me, but it's a cognitive test. It starts off with an easy question, and by the time you get to the middle, it gets tougher. By the time you get to the end, very few people can answer those questions. They get very tough, mathematical equations and things. I took it 3 times. I aced it all 3 times in front of numerous doctors that I have no idea who they are. And I was told when I went in, they said, Doc Ronnie told me this. My current doctors were fantastic doctors. They said, well, if you take it, you know, it's Walter Reed. It's essentially a public hospital. And if you do badly, it's probably going to get out. But I aced it. I got them all right. And one doctor said, I've never seen anybody get them all right. I've been doing the test for 20 years. I want people, I would love to see anybody that's a president or a vice president or anybody that has any chance of being a president. I would like to see them take a cognitive test, because we had a man in this office that had no clue what was happening. And let me give you a little secret. He wasn't a smart man 30 years ago. And I'll tell you about President Obama. He wasn't a smart man either. I know all about him. He wasn't a smart man, highly overrated. He was a great divider. And our country can't go through that anymore, can't go through. We have done an amazing job. I had to do a little stopover. I call it an excursion. I had to do a little stopover in Iran, and we had to knock the hell out of them because our country would not have been safe. The world wouldn't have been safe. I've done a great favor for the world. The world has not been reciprocal, because when I told NATO, where we give billions and billions of dollars, trillions over the years, I said, do you mind coming up and giving us a little hand with the streets? Send up some. They didn't want to get involved. And I believe that's going to cost them dearly. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
There you go. President Trump holding his 11th cabinet meeting of his second administration and fielding a ton of questions there from the press. This as today, as mentioned in the meeting, is day 41 of the DHS shutdown, all while the Senate continues to debate the Save America Act on the Senate floor. Plus, today marks exactly 100 days until our country turns 250 on July 4th. Meantime, join us at 3:45 this afternoon as the president delivers remarks at the Greek Independence Day celebration in the East Room of the White House. For all of us here at Right Side, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you at 3:45. Also, if you'd like to donate to the network, just go to rsbnetwork.com/donate as we grow and expand here. Again, rsbnetwork.com/donate. And finally, mypillow.com/RSBN. A ton of great products there. This is the Mega Sale 2.0, along with free shipping. More than 2,000 products to choose from. mypillow.com/RSBN. For all of us here at Right Side, I'm Matthew Alvarez. We'll see you again at 3:45 with Robert McNeely.